Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another rapid fire round of intense racing action in the Race by Wire Porsche Cup, powered by Virtual Energized Solutions and brought to you on none other than the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, and that is of course iRacing. We're here today, another week has absolutely flown by, and we have made our way to Germany for round 9 of 10. Where exactly in Germany are we? Well, we have made our way to the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg, the circuit located within the state from which it takes half its name, and the half of it of course referring to the local town, where it's a circuit that has changed very much over its extensive history. What once opened up what was a run all the way through the local forest, as of 2002 it was tamed and brought much closer to spectator view, and well, under the guise of design work from Hermann Tilke, it has become a highly technical test of ability. 2.84 miles in length and consisting of 16 corners, this is a circuit that, whilst we have lost the extended straights that used to be its commonplace theme, well, it has retained a couple of long straights, but what it's also introduced is a whole variety of corner sequences. Some of them sweepers, some of them hairpins, and some of them quick fire direction changes. But add it all together and it makes it a circuit where it's quite unsettling with regards to how many corners you need to get right, and getting them right every lap is going to prove highly challenging for even the most consistent, and when it's wide open road racing surface as well. It makes it the perfect opportunity to provide plenty of brilliant battling action, and ideal then for when we do have our championships wide open with only 2 rounds remaining. But where exactly are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this live broadcast as you tune in today and we catch all the race action from the circuit side, and the one and only place you can do so on YouTube, and has of course none other than youtube.com, and search for Race by Wire RBW, and you can tune in via the official Race by Wire YouTube channel. And if you are in the chat right now, don't be shy, feel free to say hi and let us know how you're doing today. And if you're going through the middle of the week, perhaps you hit the hump day and you've got a bit of a frown, well, don't worry, let's turn it upside down into a smile as we bring you all this racing action, and I can assure you there's going to be plenty of entertainment. In the content TV, you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll bring you all your racing action tonight, indeed over the entirety of the season. And as we make our way into this round, well, what exactly is our schedule for today? Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. And what we can see in approximately 13 minutes time, we'll be making our way into our qualifying session as per usual, 10 minutes in length, 4 fly-ups available to our drivers, and all drivers taken to an isolated instance of circuit in which they'll try to get it right. Track position could be key around here. We'll talk more about that when we do get to qualifying, after which they'll make the way to the grid for the first of their 2 races. Race number 1 will be the 12-minute sprint, due to get underway at 10 past 8, where for that, all the drivers will need to be absolutely fast and furious and need to pump out laps as if it's an extended qualifying session, albeit of course with the additive, which is they'll be battling with each other. After which we'll take a brief breather before returning at just after 25 past 8 this evening to the grid for race number 2, and there we'll multiply the time distance of the race by 2.5, and that's when we go into our 30-minute feature race. No pit stops expected, but plenty more strategy on the cards, given the fact that our drives' tyres only normally last the best part of 15 to 20 minutes, and with tyre wear being something they need to be cognizant of. Therefore it means the battling can run all the way from the very start to the finish, and some drivers who prove quick at the start may fall behind right at the finish line. But how exactly will our drivers get on today? Well, that's what we're here to find out. But as we head into this round, let's give you a recap of the story so far after 8 rounds of racing, and most importantly, what exactly happened last time out at our previous venue. Well, ladies and gents, without further ado, let's give you the recap. As we can see, last time out in round number 8, on the 18th of February, we were at the Sebring International Raceway. There, in our return to the US state of Florida for a 3rd visit of the season, of course, we opened up in Florida at the Miami International Autodrome, and prior to that, in round number 7, we were at the Daytona International Speedway, but we made our way 3 hours southwards, and in doing so, well, what a round we had. We saw plenty of batting up and down the field, no doubt about it. Sebring really did deliver. However, at the very start of the session, it was a dominant display in qualifying from Oscar Berntsson. Of course, he's missed 2 rounds back to back, so therefore he needed perfection, and he was able to achieve said perfection, absolutely roaring his way to victory in qualifying and in the races in the gold class. However, behind him, what exactly went on? We got to see some absolutely incredible battling, and in the end, it was in the gold class a 1-2 in the sprint for the Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing teammates of Oscar Berntsson and Matt Strand, although Matt Strand did have a bit of fortune when their 3rd rival in the championship, none other than Kim Andre Bjørklund, ended up having a big spin on lap number 2, sending him all the way down to the bottom of the top 15. However, with that, we also got to see some absolute eclectic battling between the likes of Richard Simnott and Josh Boot, who also got caught up with Matt Sproul, the silver driver, who's definitely one of the big stars of the season. And meanwhile, in the silver class for that race, with it all going wrong for Matt Sproul, well, in the end, it was none other than Glenn Grondeliers who was able to just out-qualify the rest of the silver class, starting 2nd behind Sproul, and it was only by 5 hundredths of a second he was able to do so, and in the end he was able to make his way home to victory in the first race of the day, even though Emma Rui was was right on his heels time and time again in the 12-minute race. Then we made our way into the feature race there, and what we got to see was Oscar Berntsson make his way all the way through the field from 10th to the victory, but he took a very slow start and made sure to protect his tyres as much as humanly possible. And with 10 minutes to go, he took the lead of his class, albeit he was not able to close down Sproul for the overall win, with Matt Sproul proving triumphant at the very front of the field and becoming the first silver driver to take an overall win in the series history, making it happen in the inaugural season of the championship. We thought it might happen, albeit it didn't quite happen at Daytona, but Sproul was able to make the magic happen last time out at Sebring. But behind, there were so many stories, and once again we got to see Emma Ryu and Glenn Grondeliers battle hard, two of the biggest championship stars in the silver class going toe-to-toe, and Grondeliers was just able to outclass Ryu for the second time. However, there are plenty more narratives and plenty more stories there, and I suspect we're going to see even more today, given the fact it is now the 25th of February 2026, and we are in Germany at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit. Of course, next time out, to wrap up the season, we'll be in March. It'll be the 4th of March, and round 10 of 10, we'll see our drivers make their way to the Adelaide Street circuit, introduce the iRacing platform as the 2026 Season 1 update. Indeed, there, it's going to be a circuit they'll all need to get familiar with quite quickly. But still, coming to a circuit they will be familiar with as they make the way out to the German circuit today, where exactly to the standing stand after 8 rounds. When we start with the Gold Drivers' Championship, and here we can see the gap is none other than 8 points in the favour of Matt Strand. The Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing driver, he looked very quick in the sprint. He finished in second, of course, behind his teammate, but in the feature, things did not quite go right. He struggled to make his way through the field, and something he talked about earlier on in the season, the fact that one thing he's really struggled to adapt to in this Porsche 992.2 Cup car is the longer-term race pace and getting used to the electronics, and that came back to bite him once again when he was looking to try and take a landmark result, and that would have put him well clear, because Kim Andre Bjørklund, it was not the happiest day in the office. Whilst he may have qualified 4th in class and then fall into 6th in race number 1, and in race number 2 it was a 7th place as well, and after his dismal day at Daytona, Sebring did not help him whatsoever, and the Sim Racing Norway driver now knows he's got to do all or nothing today if he wants to be able to keep himself on a level playing field going into the season finale. However, what we got to see behind him was Oscar Berntsson, of course, with the maximum 40-point score. Well, right now he's definitely on a mission to move forward, albeit he is still the best part of 5 points behind. And remember, he has 2 0 scores against his name, so he can drop one of them, but he can't drop the other. So therefore, he must take the full 40 if he wants to put himself right on the level with the leaders come the end of today, and hope that they respectively drop some points as well. Josh Boot, meanwhile, on 206 points. That's the furthest we'll see him go for this season, because I do believe he's not going to be able to make the final 2 rounds, which is unfortunate, because the Atomic Esports driver was able to sliver his way ahead of Richard Simnor and Andy Jones. The DCW Racing Blue drivers there, 5th and 6th respectively, only separated by 5 points, and right now Richard Simnor definitely on the charge. Behind Jones, we see Simon Bamber in 7th place there for Effect Simulations, and he definitely put on plenty of entertainment last time out, finding himself right in the thick of the fighting in both races, ahead of Jack Atkinson, who's a further 20 points behind. Paddy Falconer and Mikey Pollard complete your top 10. The Film BIL.NO Thrill Sport Racing drive then only 4 points ahead of Nick Clibbins, and then we do see Joe Newman, Ryan Davies, Daniel Shilcock, Garen Petty, Casper Tunstead, Andy Archer and Helder Gonzalez round off that top 18, with all the points going to drives all the way down to 16th in the form of the Peak Sim Racing driver of Tunstead. But meanwhile, coming on to the silver class standings, how exactly does our other class stand in after 8 rounds? Well, there you can see at the very top, it is 229 points for Glenn Grondeliers for Pegasus Sim Racing, head of the ERR by the organisation's Emma Ryu, who has fallen behind by the best part of 18 points. Now, the gap emerging from Sebring was a gap of 14 points, but it has been increased to 18 as a result of a post-race penalty. Indeed, there were a few stewarding investigations with regards to the feature race in particular, if my memory serves me correctly, and Ryu being docked 4 points as a result, so that's why that gap has expanded a little. And with Ryu not expected to be on the grid today, but hopefully we'll get to see her back on the grid as of Adelaide. Well, this, of course, is a premier opportunity for Glenn Grondeliers to be able to try and make this championship fall into his control. However, he only has one problem, and that problem is that he does have plenty of drivers who are very eager to match him on pace. Adam Clanvik being one of them there for the Ice Cold Racing by the Max Sim Racing organisation. Not on the grid last time out, he did not start, but we hope to see him back today, because I can tell you one thing, he's definitely the equal Grondeliers when it comes to one-lap pace, and also in race pace, they're not too far apart. Ollie Penley sits in 4th place at Ghost Quadrant Esports as well. His form continues to fly high, and he's back once again today and looking to try and move even further forward, as he's now holding on to 4th, and he's only 3 points behind Clanvik. He has opened up a comfortable gap to Chris Cole, who we're not expecting to see on the grid for this round, and he's on 168 points, 3 ahead of Matt Sproul, and the HRT Nexus Racing driver unfortunately will not be on the grid with us for this round, and he may not be able to make the season finale, but we hope he is able to, because we'd love to see him out there giving it his all, given the fact that he's definitely picked up some huge point scores, and more in a different reality, perhaps he could have been your championship contender. Meanwhile, Aaron Herbert there for Drive Lounge Racing, where you can always count on him, albeit things didn't go quite right at Daytona, and last time out, he wasn't able to secure any points at Sebring. The car did not make its way to Florida, or the southern part of Florida, we should say. It had to come home, and the Drive Lounge Racing driver there on 156 points, that's not necessarily representative of what he feels that he's brought to the table this season. However, he's 7 ahead of Alan McCain for Iris Esports, who definitely had a very fighty day last time out at Sebring, albeit the points were not coming his way, and he's ahead of Krista Houseaway for Tractics Racing, and unfortunately Houseaway retiring from the racing for this season, of course, due to wanting to focus on his health. However, the good news is I suspect he will be tuning in today, and Krista, if you are tuning in, as always, we hope you're doing well. David Big Light round off the top 10 there for DCW Racing Red on 111 points, ahead of the 94 for Ben Sieber for DCW Racing Yellow. He's best of the rest, ahead of Rob Van Hoot, who's back once again, looking to go and try and chase down Ben Sieber. And then we do have a further 7 points there to the Frenchman of Blue Mercure Racing's Alexandre Longjou. And I want to tell you one thing, he's had a lot of bad luck this season, but he had plenty of fun battling with Ben Sieber last time out, particularly in the feature race at Sebring, and we hope to see him doing some more battling today. Then Burton Tor sits in 14th on 62 points, 1 ahead of Fabrizio Penzo, who definitely had a happier day in the office last time out. And then Mark Collicott sits 16th for DCW Racing Red, 9 ahead of Matty Wild, who will expect to be back on the grid at our season finale. I do believe he's currently rebuilding his entire sim rig, and it's taken a little bit longer than expected. Nido Braun sits 18th for Film BIL.NO, ahead of Nicholas Grunstrom, and it's Mirazam Yutsupov, Dave Van Dam, and Timo Gertner, who round off your Silver Championship standings. But that's how the standings stand then, and as we make our way into this round, now let's talk a little bit about our host circuit. There's, of course, the Hockenheimring Grand Prix circuit, located at the Am Motterdrom in the vicinity of Hockenheim in the Baden-Württemberg state of Germany. 16 corners, 2.84 miles, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track mats contained within it. And as we can see on this diagram, well, it's a two-dimensional image, and this circuit is very much two-dimensional for the most part. There's very little elevation change around here, indeed running on the flat raceway. However, there are subtle camber changes with regards to some of the corners, and that's what our drivers will need to be wary of. But as they roar the way down the start-finish straight, it'll be into the fast right-hander, a Nord curve at turn number 1. And as they come through that, they'll need to make sure not to run too wide or take too much apex curb. Go wide, they'll pick up a slowdown penalty, take too much apex curb, and they'll be flying high. And indeed, when they come crashing down, the car may go around. But get it right, they'll make their way up towards the first of 2 hairpins at Einfurt Parabolica at turns 2, 3, and then through the kink of 4 they'll go. Expect plenty of battling there, and battling will continue all the way through Parabolica, through turn number 5, down towards the Spitzkehrer hairpin at turn number 6. There, the lowest speed corner on the circuit, will see apex speeds are around 45 miles an hour. Our drivers go hard onto the brakes before exiting and roaring their way in towards the first of 2 stadium sequences. The first one being the Mercedes Stadium of turns 7 through to 10. Then it's about the fast right-hander and then the heavy braking zone for the left-hander right-angle corner at turn number 8, and then the sweeping direction changes at turns 9 and 10. Then it's going to be a short run in towards Mobile 1 curve at turn number 11 and the commencement of the second stadium sequence, albeit turn number 11 a circuit corner where you definitely want to try and carry as much speed in as you possibly can, albeit you need to nail that late apex and get it right, and the speed you carry all the way towards turn number 12 will be absolutely terrifying. But our drivers are now to quickly go into the braking zone for turn number 12, and as they do so, well, they'll find that corner will be quite cambered at the apex, and therefore it's all about using the road camber, and get it right, they'll power the way through the kinks of 13 and 14, to come through Sud curve at turns 15 and 16 the south corner, to complete lap and do it all over again, or to finally see that finish line. But before we go racing, of course, a quick reminder of the rules. This is an open setup series. The drivers don't bring a setup of their choosing to each and every session. Now, in terms of qualifying, it is a closed format. That means our drivers take to an isolated instance of the circuit, but they see none of their competitors, and therefore they have ample opportunity to try and get the best possible lap, albeit without the slipstream. Drivers have their out lap plus 4 flying laps available to them within the 10-minute window. As for our race, well, the grid for the sprint race shall be set based on qualifying, after which, when we do go racing and make our way to the feature race, we'll be updating the grid, and it will be set based on results of the sprint race, albeit we invert the top 10 finishing positions. So what exactly does that mean in layman's terms? Well, it means the winner of the sprint starts in 10th place for the feature, and we continue that inversion until we get to the 10th place finisher from the sprint race, who will then start on pole for the purposes of the feature. Those who finished a length and downwards in the sprint race, you guessed it right, that's exactly where they'll start for the second and final race of the day. Both races shall commence by a standing start, as is the tradition of Porsche Super Cup class racing, and drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. But as we get set and ready to go, well, of course, we need to give a big shout out to our title sponsor, who are incorrectly named earlier on, and it's none other than Energize Virtual Solutions, not Virtual Energy Solutions. And well, a huge thank you to Energize Virtual Solutions, who is a software consultancy whose aim is to meet the demand demands of bespoke product services and development. Where it's a complete new project or consultancy assistance on existing projects, Energise Virtual Solutions will be working alongside you every step of the way. And if you'd like to know more about how they can help you, do head to energisevirtual.com today. Indeed, it wouldn't be possible without Energise Virtual Solutions, and we're very grateful to them for being our title sponsor for Season 1 of the Race by Wire Porsche Cup. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, well, as we sit here circuit side right now, who exactly is looking quick and who's perhaps right now looking a little bit further down? Well, we haven't got too many drivers here today. Indeed, it is looking to be a little bit of a quieter field compared to what perhaps we're used to. As we see Rob Van Hoot making his way along, and as he does so, well, charges way on around through the quarters right now. Van Hoot definitely, I think, thinks to himself that it's time to park up and get himself all set and ready to go. Albeit I think he'd be taking a bit of a breather there as Alan McCain meanwhile makes his way on through. And we do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. It does seem as though our driver's delivery is not quite loading at the moment. A bit of a technical hitch in the back end, but we will get that fixed as we transition from practice in towards qualifying. So don't worry about that, as we do see Alan McCain calling things on down here, and we're currently the lowest placed our drivers who has put a lap together. Mark Collicott, the only driver who's yet to put a lap together, but only 13 drivers in attendance here, and we are missing some very big names. Of course, Emma Ryu we're missing in the silver class, as well as Adam Klamvik to name two. And whilst our drivers park up, well, it's time to make our way into qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Who exactly is going to put themselves on pole? Well, let's find out over the course of 10 minutes of qualifying. And so as qualifying begins to tick away second by second, minute by minute, well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Who exactly will be taking that pole position, and how valuable will that pole position be when we do go green flag racing? Well, Kim Andre Bjørklund storms his way out the pit lane there as quick as he possibly can, trying to get as much tyre temperature in as possible as he weaves within the confines of the pit exit line. And well, number 88 driver there right now really pushing it, and indeed pushing the envelope so far he almost goes all around. But understandably, he wants to try and get the job done as quickly as he can. Richard Simnor, meanwhile, makes his way on the stairs. Our liveries all do load. We do apologise about that once again, but Simnor makes his way onwards. Right now, number 42 driver here for DCW Racing. He may be the only DCW Racing driver here today. We'll have a very limited number, but to be fair, he's going to fly the banner high for the team. And well, we do see Mark Collicott as well for the team in the silver class. And one interesting statistic, I do believe, from being down in the DCW Racing garage earlier on today, that this is the first time this season that Collicott and Simnor have been on the same circuit together. Indeed, every other round, both drivers have not been together. It's either been one or the other, and some have been wondering whether Richard Simnor and Mark Collicott are the same person, just like you'd say that you never see none other than Batman and also his alter ego, or the actual person of Bruce Wayne, together in the same room, or indeed Clark Kent and Superman. But Richard Simnor definitely has been a bit of a Superman with regards to some of the battles he's put on so far this season, and Mark Collicott, meanwhile, perhaps has not put as much entertainment in as Simnor with regards to the elbows out battling, but Collicott definitely has tried to deliver just as good results. But as Simnor makes his way around, he gets ready for his first flying lap, and we do say hello to none other than Emma Ryu there, who says, hope the cars won't be too bouncy today. Indeed, at Sebring, of course, the cars definitely were lurching on their suspensions quite aggressively, given the very bumpy nature of Sebring. But right now, we're a much flatter circuit here, and no major road surface changes as well, and the only bumpiness will be if you take a bit too much apex curb where there is a sausage curb to worry about. But as Simnor makes his way onto that first flying lap, how important exactly will qualifying be? Well, the answer is it's going to be valuable if you can put yourself right towards the front. Overtaking around here is not impossible. We have definitely seen plenty of battling over the years, whether it be in real life or on the simulator at the Hockenheimring. And given the width of the circuit, a common characteristic of a Hermann Tilke design circuit is that it is a circuit that offers opportunities for at least 2, if not 3, or even 4 wide. Another design feature of a Hermann Tilke circuit, of course, being a 1 kilometre back straight. However, intriguingly, this circuit does not have that, because this is perhaps arguably Hermann Tilke's prototype circuit. It was one of the very first big notable modern era circuits that Hermann Tilke designed, and it did receive quite a bit of a controversial reception when it did get unveiled to the world in 2002, in the fact that a lot of drivers did like it. However, there was also complaints about the fact that the circuit lost its soul in a way, no longer being the trip into local forest. However, local spectators and international spectators were quite grateful, because while the downside, if you paid for a seat at the Hockenheimring back then, was the fact that you couldn't actually see 90% of the racing, because 90% of it actually actually happened in the forest, where there were no grandstands. And the whole idea of creating the circuit or locating it around this southern section, or this southwestern section of the original circuit, was to make sure that spectators could see as much as possible. And that's where you have these stadium sections, which really give that opportunity for drivers to see as much as they can of the fans, and as much as the fans can see of them. But as we do see Berntsson making his way on around right now, what we're going to see from him, meanwhile, as he heads towards that timeline, and on the theme of qualifying, you can battle here, and therefore that will cost time. So putting yourself right toward the front row means you're going to guarantee you'll be battling for victory. Well, we do see Berntsson coming on through on a 37.379. That's 7 tenths faster than everybody else, but Kim Andre Bjørklund immediately responds there. He's only 1.5 tenths slower, and that's the first flying laps on the board. Well, that's an indication of just the very first laps, and they've been warming up the tyres and the brakes. You can understand within the coming laps then whether we're going to see even more from them all. But understandably, well, it's going to be a bit of time from all these drivers here. It's Glenn Grundler for Pegasus Civ Racing, currently the fastest of everybody in the silver class and 5th fastest overall. Mark Collicott's still in the pit lane at the moment after parking the car up, and he's just making his way out the pits again when they've got a bit of a technical issue with the DCW racing machine that they have been trying to cure. I think an electronic issue that they're trying to reset. As Gondoliers makes his way out of the hairpin. Aaron Herbert, meanwhile, a bit further back there. And well, the Drive Lounge racing driver, of course, racing for Drive Lounge Racing in their academy group as of real life this year, and we're very happy for him there for that big announcement. And as he makes his way on around right now, well, in fact, as he roars his way onwards, Drive Lounge Racing be the team that we do have on the standings, but in fact do believe that it's Innovation Racing that he is going racing for in real life this year as part of their academy program, and we're very happy for that good news for Aaron Herbert. And the fact, a sim racing driver taking his driving to the real level for Innovation Racing, and we wish him all the best of luck with that in the number 3. As he comes out of turn number 12 right now, he's currently the 2nd fastest of our silvers, and we owe you an on-board lap, ladies and gentlemen, to really bring to life this Hockenheim circuit from a driver's perspective. And to do so, we're going to go on board with Richard Simnor as he makes his way out of the final corner and goes onto his 3rd flying lap. So down towards turn 1 he goes, braking now about 75 metres in the opening corner, drops to 4th gear, 2 wheels in the exit curve, that's all we need to be within track limits, and now making his way down towards turn number 2. Getting ready for his next brake on marker. It will be before the 100 board, about 130 metres on corner apex, down to 2nd gear, clips the apex very nicely there, and now feeds the throttle in. A little bit of traction control interruption there in Trini. That cost him about a tenth or two coming out the corner, and it's going to be added up here as he makes his way down towards the Splitscare hairpin. Now flat out, all the way through the Parabolica curve at this point, and well, you can just relax for a little bit, keep the car to the left-hand side and get ready to go on the brakes, and down from 164 miles an hour, 170 metres from corner apex, he comes all the way down to 1st gear. Clips the apex absolutely succinctly, and now back on full throttle and up towards the first of the 2 stadiums. In towards Mercedes he goes. He'll be flat out here through turn number 7, but he'll want to cut this absolutely pinpoint perfectly as he makes way through. Now lets the car come over to the right to get on the brakes nice and early for turn number 8. We're on his way through the apex down to 2nd gear, and now over to the left to open up turn number 10 as much as possible. And here it's all about feeding the throttle in and just unwrapping the steering wheel. And as he comes up towards turn number 11, he'll look to his left-hand side for his brake marker. Where's it going to be? Well, in the end, there's no real marker to work with there. It's more about memory, and coming out of the corner and now in towards turn number 12. We're into the stadium section, braking at the 50 board there, and trail braking his way all the way to the apex curve to use the camber of the road to carry the speed. And now through 13 and 14, a straight line the apex as much as possible, but keeps the car over to the left for 15, drops to 3rd gear, and now rolling the car through, and we're making sure not to go too wide there to invalidate the lap. And for Richard Simnor, this has been buttery smooth, but does smooth translate into quick? It normally does, but what's it going to be for him in this one as he crosses the timing line? And well, he is going to move up to 3rd place there, half a second still off of Berntsson's overall pole time. A monstrous lap of a 37.100, but still for Richard Simnor, that 37.634 is a lap of envy as Berntsson thinks he's got it done. He does not need the 4th lap. Meanwhile, Kim Andre Bjørklund knows he needs the 4th lap now if he wants to try and dethrone Oscar Berntsson from making it another pole position. Matt Strand, meanwhile, well, he's currently the best part of only 300ths behind Bjørklund, so therefore it could be the case that Berntsson might be able to do what he did at Sebring, which is just simply take pole position and then try to walk away from it. Meanwhile, Matt Strand, well, he's currently in 3rd, and it was intriguing to hear from both drivers after the racing, of course, at Sebring, where they talked about the fact that whilst both of them want the Drivers' Championship, they want it to go to a member of the team, and therefore Oscar Berntsson particularly was talking about the fact it doesn't bother him whether it goes to him or Matt, so long as the team get the championship. They'll be happy with that. And of course, then there's the personal preference of which driver it does go to. But Matt Strand right now knowing that he really needs to beat Bjørklund today if he wants to give himself the most comfortable run to that crown next time out at Adelaide, excluding the consideration of his teammate Berntsson. Meanwhile, in the silver class, here's Glenn Gondoliers on his final flying lap, and I do believe he does have a few of his fans in the chat today, as we do say hello there to Scanigan, who's cheering on Oscar Berntsson, saying Berntsson the king. Indeed, right now he definitely has a crown for the most pole positions taken this season in qualifying, I can tell you that. But meanwhile, Glenn Gondoliers rolling his way through to number 12, as he does so, number 99 driver here. Well, is he going to be using up all 99? Well, not red balloons necessarily, although the infamous song from Nina, the German artist, of course. Well, right now the 99 equivalent here would be his 99 lives. He's definitely been in the thick of the fighting in certain instances, but right now coming out of that corner and to the timeline. Well, can he stay on silver pole here? Currently 5th. Does he improve? He does. He moves to 4th there ahead of Simnor. So Richard Simnor improves, and then suddenly Glenn Gondoliers finds an extra 2 tenths over the top of him. He goes 4th. Aaron Herbert still out on the lap. However, can Herbert join the dots together here? Well, so far, Sector 1 has not been a great Sector 1. It's actually been quite a poor one, as Alexandre Longjou moves into 8th there, jumping ahead of Fabrizio Penzo and Alan McCain. So he parks up. He thinks he's got the job done. Meanwhile, Aaron Herbert has actually come into the pit lane, so he's not happy the way his lap has ended. Meanwhile, Fabrizio Penzo, he comes across line, and he's going to go to 8th on a 38.492, almost 3 tenths behind Ollie Pimley. Alan McCain, meanwhile, in the Rexy machine. Well, 212 driver here, definitely right now with the lovely character shot from AO Racing's livery. Well, he comes all the way through the right-hander, turn 7 in towards 8. Now currently 2 tenths off the Longjou, and the best part of almost a second ahead of Rob Van Hoot. And we're still waiting on some time to be set by Ryan Davies and Mark Collicott, but neither driver getting a lap on the board at the moment. Mark Collicott here, currently your 13th and last of your drivers. If the qualifying was to finish, that's how they would line up based on what you see on the standings. And Collicott there making a bit of a ham sandwich of the apex of turn number 13. Car not looking quite settled, and coming all the way through Stude Curve right now. Well, he's got one more lap to do, but he's not going to have a chance to do it because we don't have any overtime. So this has got to be it for Mark Collicott. But what's it going to be here as he comes on through? And well, he has no lap. He goes 12th there, and in the end 2 tenths off of Rob Van Hoot. He will be the last of your qualifiers, as that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And well, as he toes the pit lane and our circuit goes silent, well, in the end it definitely has been a huge performance from Oscar Berntsson in qualifying, taking pole in the end by a sizable gap of at least a tenth. And well, here we go then to the grid for the first of our 2 races today, round number 9 of the Race by Wire Porsche Cup, sponsored by Energise Virtual Solutions. And as all of our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for race number 1, the 12-minute sprint. It is Oscar Berntsson who takes pole position in for Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing, and Kim Andre Bjørklund could close the deficit, but not enough to take pole. The Sim Racing Norway driver will start second. Behind the Norwegian, it's then going to be fellow countryman of Matt Strand for Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing, who starts third. The championship leader, who knows he needs to get ahead. Then silver pole position will go to Glenn Gondoliers for Pegasus Sim Racing, the championship leader, and he's got things off to the right start today for the Belgian team. We then do have Richard Sidnall starting in 5th place for DCW Racing Blue, just ahead of the second silver driver there of Aaron Herbert for Innovation Racing. And it's going to be Ollie Pimley for Ghost Squadron Esports ahead of Fabrizio Penzo. And the Italian will then be followed up by Alexandre Longjou for BB1 Sim Racing, and none other than Alan McCain for iRace Esports. Outside the top 10, starting in 11th place, that's going to be Rob Van Hoot, the privateer, ahead of Mark Collicott for DCW Racing Red, and Ryan Davies with no valid lap. We start in 13th at best for Empire Motorsport, but he knows we're a slightly condensed field. There's not too many cars that he needs to pick his way on past, but understandably here there's still going to be a big challenge, and well, presuming that Ryan Davies' car has not experienced technical issues and it will be able to go out there, it'll be interesting to see how he tries to pick his way past the silver field. We definitely have got more silvers than golds here today, and whilst we may have a quite slender field, well, the saying always goes that it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality, and we've got plenty of quality drivers here, and I suspect we're going to see plenty of quality racing. Well, 12 cars made the one to grid. Ryan Davies is not on the grid, so it's going to be a 12-car lineup, and here come the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights out, away we go for the first of 2 races at the Hockenheimring, and Oscar Berntsson gets a good start. Immediately though, Matt Strand here gets the better launch compared to Bjørklund, but in towards Nord Curve, and in the top 3 stay as they were. Glenn Gondoliers, he's just been able to stay ahead of Richard Simnor. As further back, Ollie Pimley's had a good start here and has leapt his way forward, but he looks around the outside here, and Herbert, is he going to be able to make it happen in towards the Iron Parabolic hairpin? He's going to try and get a nose ahead. That's not going to be easy, as meanwhile Alan McCain tries to attack Mark Collicott, and in the end Collicott's going to get the better of him, and Collicott does go forward. So therefore Mark Collicott gaining 2 places already, and Rob Van Hoot at the back of the group. But meanwhile, in the slipstream now, heading down towards the hairpin, here comes Kim Andre Bjørklund. He goes over the back of Oscar Berntsson and cuts to the outside. Now defending to the inside here is Berntsson, too wide, a little bit of rub between the two of them. And Oscar Berntsson holds the position as Matt Strand tucks in, but already a second between them. And your full place driver, Richard Simnot, as Aaron Herbert there pulls off line. I think he might have had power oversteer. Alternatively, he's trying to distract Glenn Grondeliers. Well, as he comes into the braking zone here for turn number 8, he's going to go all the way out the inside. That's for the silver lead. Herbert goes a bit deep, and Grondeliers tries to cut back at him now. It's too wide on through, and Herbert backs off again. He really is right now trying to use these grand sweeping moves here when it doesn't work out. He's trying to get in the Grondeliers' head, but the problem is he's getting his own head here, because here comes Fabrizio Penzo looking up the inside, and when they go too wide into 11, and lovely move there from the 55 driver, but now here comes Aaron Herbert backing him around the outside. They're definitely putting on the show here right now as they roll the way through, but Penzo holds the place. Lovely move there from Fabrizio Penzo, just picks the right time to attack, and the Italian driver right now, he'll be very happy with that, and indeed the team, the private outfit will be pleased. But a small tap to the rear there from Aaron Herbert, and right now saying, hi, I'm still here. There's a bit of a touch there as they come out of Sud Curve, and Penzo not the quickest out of the final quarter, but on to lap number 2 they go, and right now Penzo really building up a queue of cars behind, because they all make the one through onto lap 2. Well, your leaders, here they are. It's Berntsson ahead of Bjørklund, ahead of Strand, followed by Simnor. That's all gold. Then in 5th, it's Grondeliers, your silver leader ahead of Penzo, or is it Aaron Herbert? Herbert up the inside. In towards turn number 2, he goes to the switch, he gets it done, and Aaron Herbert ahead now, but Penzo, of course, has the draft to work with. Ollie Pimley, he's had quite a silent start here. He's actually dropped a place to Penzo, and he's now sat in 4th place in silver, 8th overall, just watching on us. Meanwhile, that's 3 wide behind, and in the end, Alan McCain backs off there, knowing the Moses manoeuvre is not going to work, and instead, he will be reverse Moses at this point. But meanwhile, Aaron Herbert here up the inside, and see Pimley tapping the rear of Penzo's car, and Penzo goes round, and in the end, as they all come out the hairpin, everyone past the seats, Penzo gets himself restarted, and when in the end, not the cleanest moment of the hairpin, but to be fair, the way they all handled it, 10 out of 10 for that one. Everyone immediately reacted, but now Mark Collicott has the problem of Alexander Longshoe, who's gained from all the chaos at the hairpin, and Collicott up into full place in the silver class, but meanwhile Longshoe thinking he might be able to find a way through as we ride on board here with the Frenchman from BB1. And coming out of the right hander right now gets a much better exit there as Collicott goes defensive. These two making the way in towards turn number 11. At this point, Longshoe on the inside. Can he force the issue? He can. Collicott has to back off there. Almost runs wide for it. Albeit in the end they are able to stay too wide here. And both trying to show each other equivalent respect as they come through 12. And you see Longshoe on the higher line there, sweeping the speed round. That's what you can do with the cambered nature of turn number 12. But then Collicott's able to beat him on the brakes. There's a bit of a tap to the rear there almost of Longshoe from Alan McCain. McCain right now bearing his fangs. They roll the way through the corners. But as we do see Longshoe running out slightly wide, well, meanwhile, whilst it's all kicking off in the silver class, at the front of the field, in the gold class, everything is staying relatively static. And this might be a consideration of the fact that right now they've all got to measure each other, albeit who's saving tyres on whom now? And that may sound a bit of an odd question, given the fact that we do expect the tyres to normally last the best part of 15 minutes at least, depending on the circuit. But understandably, Oscar Berntsson right now, we know he wants to win. He needs the perfect score to be able to be a competitor in the championship come the season finale. But I wonder if he's perhaps pacing himself to Bjørklund, Strand and Simnor. Because remember, if you do hold a 1 second lead, yes, you're still gifting the slipstream to your rival behind. However, your rival's then got to work through a wall of dirty air, and they've also got to have the pace to match you in the first place. So if Berntsson can turn the wick down from 100% to around 95%, he gives himself more tyre life to work with, and he also gives himself the ability to take a bit of a breather to keep his stamina going. And Kim Andre Bjørklund, meanwhile, will have to huff and puff and try to find a way to close the gap and then push through that wall of dirty air. That will be very prominent in the second half of the lap. As meanwhile, that's a prominent mistake there for Longshoe. Taps the rear of Collicott's car, and it calls him to understeer as they make the way out of the first stadium. Out Mercedes, and Alan McCain there says, right, I'll take that, thank you very much. And a bit of a classic move there from Alan McCain, no doubt about it. And McCain moves forward. But as they all move forward in time, we're going to take a brief trip back in time to see some of the big moments on the start of the race, ladies and gentlemen, and here we go. So this is where the race all began, was right at the start, and we did go green flag racing. Well, only 12 cars on the grid, but to be fair, it was a good start from the all as they eventually went. Oscar Berntsson in the end had the better start. But you can see there, Strand immediately almost alongside Bjørklund in towards turn 1, but backed off there. As meanwhile behind, we did see Aaron Herbert clatter the apex curb as he tried to attack Glenn Grondeliers. It didn't quite work out for him. In fact, that was an attack on Richard Simnor there. Glenn Grondeliers had got ahead of Simnor initially, and then it was Herbert having to go defensive versus Pimley. suddenly, further back, Alan McCain found himself being swarmed around the outside by Mark Collicott, and that battle went too wide all the way down towards the Spitzkegel hairpin. And then on lap number 2, we had a bit of drama, because this was Fabrizio Penzo chasing after Aaron Herbert, and in Herbert went defensive into the turn 6 hairpin. Behind me, Ollie Pimley came in, looked to the middle, and tapped Penzo on the rear, and that sent the car around, and then the whole field fanned around in order to make sure they didn't get collected, and well done to them all for that. But with that, we come back to your live race, and as we do, we come back in perfect time to see the Frenchman and the Italian battling. That's Penzo up the inside of the hairpin of turn 6, but Longju gets the switch back there and immediately now goes back on the offensive in towards Mercedes. So still too wide, but in the end he is going to get the upper hand in this battle. And well, Alexander Longju, it's a smooth move, and just like that, he gets the job done. But speaking of things that might be not quite done yet, we do see Mark Collicott, in fact, hold the phone on that one, because Longju's still fighting here as they come out of turn number 10. And we went a bit wide there at turn number 8. And well, Fabrizio Penzo right now, if he sees the doors open, he's definitely going for it. Obviously, Rob Van Hoek trying to stay with them, albeit the number 19 driver there, a bit too far back to get involved. But I think the confidence is building for him as well. These drivers, any moment, are going to keep us guessing. But speaking of keeping us guessing, well, the leader was breaking away, Oscar Berntsson, and so was Kim Andre Bjørklund with him. He's made a mistake somewhere because he has lost a whole second on that previous lap. And suddenly what has happened is that he's now got Matt Strand and Richard Simnor closing in on him. So can we expect a battle for second place at this moment? Maybe. However, Strand knows now he's got to get that little bit closer, and that's going to be the hardest part. As they make their way through the bends. Well, right now, Strand, he's as close as he wants to be, at least initially. There's going to be more he can do here before time is up. He's still got 5 minutes in this race, plus a final lap to go. But what exactly has he got in the tank here to be able to surprise us all? As meanwhile, Rob Van Hoek's fallen back there. Where's Mark Collicott? Well, in fact, Hoek's gained. Meanwhile, Mark Collicott's had a moment at turn number 2 into 4, and something's gone very backwards for him. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, to get a replay of what exactly has happened to him very shortly. In fact, I think we might be able to, as we also get a replay of what happened to Kim Andre Bjørklund. So this was Bjørklund making his way on the previous lap out of turn number 11 in towards 12, and as he took the corner there, the car went wide, so carried a bit too much speed, and that was it really in terms of what happened. But losing that speed was a loss of time, and he put himself under a bit of pressure. Then we had this for Mark Collicott, and Collicott lost the rear of the car there, coming out of turn 3 into 4, and went straight to the tyre barrier, and that explains what happened to him. And we just had this for the BB1 sim racing machine of Alexander Longju. Makes his way through turn number 7 in towards 8, hops the curb, looks fine there, into Mercedes he went, and as he did so, Penzo coming in a bit too hot there and tapping the Frenchman, sending him on the round, and we'll understand, I think there's going to be a word between the two of them after the race, because definitely in that camera angle, it did not flatter the Italian privateer. But back to your live racing we come, and as we do, Oscar Berntsson right now, well, he's still leading, 1.7 seconds is the gap, and he's maintaining it comfortably. Previous lap, a 36.96. Not quite his best, it's been a 36.93, and he is the only driver in race pace right now to set a 36. Everyone else lapping in the 37s or higher. Even Kim Andre Bjørklund, his best in this race has been a 37.25, which he's just set, and Matt Strand being at a 37.09. So Oscar Berntsson right now really trying to make this race his own as best as he possibly can, although understandably in his mind I think the worry is going to be in the fact that it may not be enough even so he's really got to dominate the competition. And well, you may be wondering, why is he still pushing? Why does he not turn his pace down even more? Well, there's also something to say about the mind games you play in a series such as this, whereby if you can win a 12-minute race, a very short race by comparison what you would typically expect to see in most racing, albeit the standard sprint race typically around the world being 15 to 20 minutes, and of course we do have a 30-minute race coming up shortly, it is the demoralisation effect when you absolutely dominate. However, as he makes his way onwards, of course, Kim Andre Bjørklund and Matt Strand, I do believe they are both drivers who have mindsets that are attuned to this. The idea is, which is there's always a bigger fish out there on the grid, and therefore if they do see Berntsson taking 3 attempts out of them lap after lap, they won't be too upset at the fact, because of course he will be starting behind them in the next race. If they can make themselves as wide as possible, they can try to frustrate him. But of course it takes you a really deep resolve to be able to keep that in mind. It's very easy to get locked into the mindset of, well, the guy in the lead is so much faster, why do I push anymore? And naturally that negative mindset will have an impact on you. But right now, Kim Andre Bjørklund and the Matt Strand, they're pushing against each other, and it does seem as though the number 88 driver is just breaking away. Richard Simnel's fallen back a little bit as Glenn Gondoliers there decides to go two-wheeling for a brief moment. Well, I think he thinks his Porsche is a motorbike there, and we're in it. It's not quite, but going up into two wheels at Nord Curve. He's got to be careful of that. Hit that curve too high and too hard, and he can do himself some suspension damage. Alternatively, what he can do is he can send himself very far out, or worst case scenario, he comes down off that curve and suddenly the suspension rebounds, it hits the bump stops, and the car goes for a spin. And if that happens, well, I suspect he will be gifting the win to Aaron Herbert, who is only 1.8 seconds behind, and the innovation racing driver right now definitely trying to think of a new way of making a move. You could say he's trying to innovate himself, but right now the number 3 driver here not quite able to do so. It's Ollie Pimley, the Ghost Squadron esports driver, in third in the class, and he's losing time to the guys in front. But to be fair to him, his best lap has been a 38.43, whereas the 2 silvers in front of him are lapping in the mid-37s. Alan McCain is actually trying to close on him a little by little, but the problem is right now that Pimley's got such a gap initially where McCain had to fight to get into this 4th place that it does seem as though McCain is going to run out of time before he can really reap the rewards of his labours. But as we see Rob Van Hoot still trying to chase after Fabrizio Penzo, well, he's definitely been looking good in this race. Compared to how it went in qualifying, where in the end he qualified in 11th place, didn't quite work out, but right now he's definitely on a mission here to try and make forward progress, and well, he's still got a bit more time given the fact they've got one more lap to go. But speaking of that final lap, here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, onto lap 8 of 8 for this race, and Oscar Berntsson right now, 9:30 seconds left on the clock. Next time around it will be the checker flag, as he decides to go even quicker there, coming through Nord Curve. Right now he does not know the word slow down, he only knows how to go fast here, and well, Kim Andre Bjørklund is trying to match him. In fact, on that previous lap, Bjørklund was a 10th quicker than Berntsson, so they are now starting to swap times, and Matt Strand was 2/10 slower than Bjørklund. So Kim Andre Bjørklund, fastest of everybody on lap number 7. I think right now this might be a little bit of a Pyrrhic moment here to be able to achieve that, as meanwhile we look back. Hold up, what on earth's happened there? That's at turn 1. That is Rob Van Hoot, who's gone to the barrier there at Nord Curve. What exactly's happened to him was he brings his way back on. Let's take a look back in time and find out. So this is a quick replay. He was chasing after Fabrizio Penzo, of course, made his way and took some grass there on entry, and that unsettled the car and it sent it sideways into the corner, and at that point he's a passenger in the car, and to the barrier he went. As quick as that, it did go backwards there for Van Hoot, and right now he's got the pressure of Alexandre Longjou trying to go around the outside of him here, down towards the hairpin. He goes defensive, does number 19. I'll left you a picture, but in the end it's not enough, and he'll be beaten to the braking zone there by the number 12. That overcooks that braking zone, and then as they make the way out the corner, well, a tight exit does mean he's going a bit of a slower run up towards turn number 7, and the place will be made by Longjou, no doubt about it. But back to the front we come, and with a gap 1.4 seconds, Bjørklund has brought it down a little bit over the last couple of laps. However, given the fact that Oscar Berntsson was able to open up early on, well, that's how he's got the job done. And as he makes his way out the final corner, well, he's needed a few more race wins, and here's one of them, because Oscar Berntsson will take victory in the first race of the day here at the Hockenheimring ahead of Kim Andre Bjørklund, and there'll be Matt Strand who completes the top 3 overall and in gold. Richard Simnel takes 4th ahead of your silver winner of Glenn Gondoliers, who will extend this championship lead, and there'll be Aaron Herbert who takes the run-up spot in silver, 6th overall, ahead of Ollie Pimley, who comes on home to complete the silver podium and move himself closer to that 2nd place spot. Alan McCain in 8th there, ahead of Fabrizio Penzo, who in the end brings on home a 5th place in the silver class. Well done to enjoy plenty of battling, and Mark Collicott will come through from the back of the field in order to take 10th place there, 6th in the silver class, ahead of Alexandre Longjou, and then we'll have Rob Van Hoot there complete all your finishing cars. Everyone who started has finished this race, and unfortunately we did lose Ryan Davis were non-start due to a technical issue, but what a race we have had, ladies and gentlemen. And the great news is we've got another one to come, but before we get to that one, we need to walk you through the results of the one we have just watched. And without further ado, here are your provisional results from our round number 9 sprint race here at the Hockenheimring. And as we can see, over 12 minutes of race, and there was little to separate the top 3, but Oscar Berntsson was able to create the gap early on and put in a couple of very quick laps in the 36.9s, and that was the delta. The Ice Cold Racing by Max Sim Racing driver coming home to take that win by 1.4 seconds over Kim Andre Bjørklund, with the Sim Racing Norway driver in the end being able to gain some ground on Matt Strand by taking 2nd ahead of his rival. Strand completed the podium there, so making it a double podium for the Ice Cold Racing team, and Richard Simnel meanwhile a further 2.8 seconds behind for DCW Racing Blue. He had a bit of a slow start and got pipped to the post by Glenn Gondoliers in qualifying, but he definitely picked up the pace as we went racing. Gondoliers then your silver class winner, Fifth overall for Pegasus Sim Racing. The team would be very pleased about that, given the pressure that was put on early stages by Aaron Herbert, although the Innovation Racing driver in the end had to make sure he was wide enough to fend off Ollie Pimley, before he could really try to chase down the Silver class leader. So Herbert took second in Silver, ahead of Ollie Pimley, 7th on the road, but 3rd in class. Another podium coming to the number 29, and behind the Ghost Squadron Esports machine was Alan McCain for Iris Esports, who did well to hold on to that 4th place early doors when he was battling with Fabrizio Penzo, who finished behind him. The privateer was ahead of Mark Collicott for DCW Racing Red, and then we did see some late errors for Alexandre Longjou for BB1 Sim Racing and Rob Van Hoot that consigned them to the very back of the finishing order. Sadly, Ryan Davies, the 5th world gold driver, not able to start the race due to a technical issue, and the Empire Motorsport driver in the end will classified 13th, but he will be classified as a non-finisher and not pick up any points. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was race number 1. A brilliant one, no doubt about it. But we've still got one more race to come. And as all the drivers cool down, well, this is the perfect time. If you haven't gone and got yourself some liquid refreshment, definitely do so, because very shortly we head into the grid for race number 2. And so here we go once again for the gridding procedure for our second and final race of the day for round number 9 of season 1 of the Race by Wire Porsche Cup, brought to you on iRacing and sponsored by Energize Virtual Solutions. And as we can see, Mark Collicott will take pole position for DCW Racing Red, and in doing so with that 10th place finish, he'll be joined on the front row, silver and overall, by none other than Fabrizio Penzo. Then it'll be on row number 2, Alan McCain there for Iris Esports, ahead of Ollie Pimley for Ghost Squadron Esports. Then on row number 3, it's going to be Aaron Herbert for Innovation Racing and Pegasus Sim Racing's Glenn Gondoliers. It's an all top 6 silver before we then come to an all conclusion to the top 10 in gold, because it's going to be Richard Simnott ahead of Matt Strand, with Kim Andre Bjørklund and Oscar Berntsson round off that top 10. Outside the top 10, let's not forget about them, it's going to be Alexandre Longjou ahead of Rob Van Hoot, and that's going to be the grid, ladies and gentlemen, with Ryan Davies not able to start this one. But here come the lights for the second and final time today, and after 5 red lights, it's lights out, away we go once again. There's a lot of wheel spin there for Mark Collicott as he tries to get away, but as they roar the way down towards 1, immediately going defence their elbows out in the mid-pack, and as they all come through Nord Curve, it's going to get very compressed there, but Kim Andre Bjørklund on the outside of Richard Simnott. Can he hold onto the goal lead here as they come down towards the heavy braking zone in towards Einfahrt Parabolica curve? And the answer is going to be not quite. Simnott still there. Contact between the two of them, it sends Bjørklund sideways. He gets a small tap there on the front by none other than what is Matt Strand, and then he's able to survive it as Alan McCain. Meal's gone round, car rolling backwards here, oh my goodness, and in the end everyone fans around him and carries on as if there was no Rexy machine on the road. But meanwhile, going to Fabrizio Penzo here, he's still fighting with Mark Collicott, trying to take the lead of this race as they come down in towards the hairpin. Collicott dives up the inside there, and also diving up the inside of Ollie Pimley is none other than Aaron Herbert, as meanwhile Oscar Berntsson trying to go on the offensive, immediately battling here with none other than Glenn Gondoliers. So Berntsson has got ahead of his teammate, and right now is absolutely making haste as he tried to hasten his way on past. Well, meanwhile, the lead battle's still going on here into Mercedes as they all fan out. And right now, that's Ollie Pimley on the inside there, diving back with Aaron Herbert. Meanwhile, Richard Simnott queues up behind him, and Pimley in end surely has to let that go. Albeit looking around the outside is Simnott. Pimley, meanwhile, offline at this point. Well, I suspect this is going to be one of those situations where Ollie Pimley has to back out, and he does so. Meanwhile, further back, Kim Andre Bjørklund here, trying to make some progress around Alexandre Longjou before the field starts to split. He looks one way, then the other, and will the BB1 Sim Racing machine not as quick as the Sim Racing Norway driver, but he's got to be patient here, and that's the thing, of course, with the top 10 reverse grid race, in the fact you have to be aware that not everyone's as quick as you. But meanwhile, Ollie Pimley very quick to go to the grass there to get out the road. He's gone for a spin. Not quite sure what's happened to him, but it's definitely gone wrong. He was looking so good as Alan McCain comes up behind him to take the place. But meanwhile, after one lap of racing, it's Fabrizio Penzo who leads ahead of Mark Collicott. Then it's Aaron Herbert in third. They're all silver drivers. Then there's your gold leader, Richard Simnott, 1.2 seconds ahead of Oscar Berntsson, who's absolutely hustling. Meanwhile, Matt Strand is third of the silvers, third of the golds, I should say, in at 6th place ahead of Glenn Gondoliers. And well, here comes Alexandre Longjou looking one way then the other, but meanwhile, Kim Andre Bjørklund goes diving up the inside there, and well, trying to make a place on the number 12 immediately. He does so at the corner where it all went round the opening lap, and it's so close there to further contact with Longjou, but not quite. And in that camera angle, deceptively tight as they come down towards turn number 6 for the second time of asking. But I get the feeling right now this race is far from over with regards to its dramatic moments, as Aaron Herbert there takes a cheeky peek to the inside and says to none other Mark Collicott, I'm looking. Keep an eye on me. Don't keep an eye on your braking zone. I'm going to distract you as much as possible. And Mark Collicott right now not falling for that trick as they make the way on through. But meanwhile, we ride on board. We have the DCW Racing Blue Machine number 42 of Richard Simnor, and we're right now gold leader, yes, but the problem is he's not leading overall, and with all these silver drives in front of him, I suspect right now this is going to be an exercise in patience here as he just waits to pick his way past. And the thing is, if he attacks them too soon, what he may end up doing is splitting the silver field, and he'll bring Oscar Berntsson closer to him. So he needs to manage the tyres a little bit here and just wait until these silver drives do put themselves into a position whereby he quite comfortably take the place. Well, coming in towards turn number 12, he was hoping they'd be able to go up the inside of Aaron Herbert, but Herbert in the end defending it. But I think Herbert was also lining up a move on Mark Collicott there, and Collicott in the end it was not close enough for Herbert to make a move. So Richard Simnor right now definitely find a silver driver in front of him, who's not going to make it easy. And I don't think Herbert by design is fending off Simnor, but by default, because he is trying to make the move on Collicott, he's going offensive defensive, if you will, whereby the best defense is the good offense, as they say. But onto lap 3 they come, and right now we stay on this on board. You see how close they get, but you see how he hops over the curb there, does Aaron Herbert, and Richard Simnor has to back off. We briefly lose the Innovation Racing car. Surely that's not going to be a technical retirement for Aaron Herbert just like that, because if so, that's definitely going to spoil what could be a very close battle between them. We have got Herbert back. Thankfully, there he is, so that's good to see, but he's now over the back of Mark Collicott here, so he's had a good run going to the ether. He's definitely had some words with the internet spirits, and now as he makes his way up towards turn number 6, side by side the two go. Richard Simnor meanwhile tries to fan the flames here, make it 3 wide. The DCW Racing drives a give, he didn't guess in one way then the other, and in the end Simnor's going to try and go around the outside here. Collicott gives it up and decides to let his teammate do the work. Meanwhile, Aaron Herbert there says, DCW Racing number 1 or number 2, I'm not letting you through. But Richard Simnor right now saying to him, I'm not asking, Aaron. As they come in towards turn number 3, he's going to look on the inside to the outside. Herbert there holds his line. Can he beat Simnor under braking into Mercedes? Yes, he can. They're still going to be too wide all the way through here, but Simnor now eventually will have the inside out of 10. Richard Simnor is going to get this done, but Herbert goes to the switch back here. Brilliant racing between these two as they head up towards turn number 11. If I was Fabrizio Penzo at the foreground of the camera, he needs to break away now whilst he can, because Aaron Herbert is trying to hold off the tide. With these gold drives right now, give them an opportunity, give them an inch, they will take the entire mile and even more so. And right now Aaron Herbert causing the biggest of queues here as he makes his way through the stadium section, heading towards Sud Curve right now. We've still got 25 minutes to go plus the final lap. There's a long way left in this race, but Aaron Herbert right now just trying to make sure that nobody gets past him for this place. On to the next lap, and as they come on around and going on to lap number 4, we can definitely see that Penzo has not got the pace to break away here, so Aaron Herbert's defensive pace is as strong as Penzo's current natural race pace. And well, to be fair, Penzo may be doing some tyre saving as well. We've always got to consider that, as the back of this long line of cars is Kim Andre Bjørklund, but as they all fan out once again, what exactly is going to happen this time? And well, the answer to that question is going to be not too much, as Bjørklund tried to go for the switchback there on Glenn Grondeliers. Grondeliers went defensive and decided to park it up on the apex, worried about what's to come. And Grondeliers, of course, wants to catch up to the silver leaders. He's currently 4th in class. He knows if he make it another podium, if he can make it a win, it's going to put him so much in control of his destiny at Adelaide. I don't think he'll know what to do with himself. But coming on down to the race, Richard Simnor this time dives up the inside of Herbert. He sees an opportunity. Herbert didn't quite see it coming and therefore has to give the space. As meanwhile behind Oscar Berntsson does clear Grondeliers. He makes his way past, and now he's battling with Matt Strand. The two Ice Cold Racing teammates here go side to side. It is going to be 2 wide cover through 7 in towards 8. Well, they need to keep it clean. That's number 2 rule of racing. Number 1 is beat your teammate, and then Berntsson up the inside there from outside to inside. He's gone, and he will take the place off of Matt Strand before they come into 9 and 10. So Berntsson have a cool and collective move. I think Strand could have forced that to go a little bit longer, but decided not to because of the risk of Kim Andre Bjørklund behind. And I wonder right now whether Strand might just tuck in here and work with it. But Aaron Herbert again looking to the outside there of Richard Simnor. He is not happy to have lost that 2nd place overall to the gold leader, and right now Simnor finds himself queued up behind Penzo. So therefore this could still have a few more twists in the tail for these drivers as they roll them through and turns 15 and 16, and coming around here right now, your number 55 driver makes his way onwards, and Simnor and Herbert are there with him, but powering their way alongwards at this point. Well, Penzo going defensive there, and Simnor looking around the outside. It's an odd curve. You don't normally go around the outside that corner, but Aaron Herbert sees the doors now open. Richard Simnor there being given the elbow out. We tried to go for the unconventional move, but in the end, Penzo simply said to him, if you're going to do that, I'll just make you go wide. And under braking here, Aaron Herbert's back ahead, but meanwhile, Berntsson up the inside of Collicott here, trying to take that full place. And right now, the ice cold racing driver, he can smell the Silver's blood in the water, and it's intermingling between Silver's and Gold's right now, as the top three are definitely getting very squirrely at the foreground of your picture, and then suddenly the battle for fourth all the way to ninth place follows it, only by 1.3 seconds, and Rob Van Hoot only 5 seconds behind. He's trying to catch up as quickly as he can, but coming on down here, well, right now Penzo finding Herbert on his inside. He's left the door open here, but he's hoping that outside line's going to give him the better traction, but not if he understeers a little bit too deep, and therefore let's go across to the speed, and Aaron Herbert succinctly takes the lead this race, and now Richard Simnor's going to try and find his way past the Italian as quickly as he can. Good to see this race is absolutely breathtaking, and well, there's no pause there whatsoever. Simnor dies on the inside, there's contact there, Penzo! Penzo goes on around, and well, Simnor would argue that he was squeezed at the apex. Meanwhile, Penzo would argue he had the right to turn on in. Two differences of opinion between the drivers, and that camera angle not being the most flattering for either of them, but right now, as they make the way onwards, well, Penzo rejoins, albeit down in ninth place. They falls to the back of the pile, and meanwhile, Kim Andre Bjørklund still trying to fight his way past Glenn Grodeliers, who is refusing to budge, and Alexander Longshoe all over the back of him. So you definitely tell the Silvers right now that all eager to try and channel the inner Matt Sproul, and all hoping that they can take it overall win as well. They don't want Sproul to become the record holder. They want to equal him at the very minimum. But coming all the way through the last couple of courses, we have not even completed 10 minutes of this race yet, let alone the full 30. So I can imagine right now all the drivers, as much as they were being told to look after their tyres at the start of the race by the teams, nobody is really looking after their tyres inside this top 8 group, and I wonder who's going to have any tyre life left at the end of this race to be able to push. Aaron Herbert's pulled away from Richard Simnor, and Simnor, in fact, right now has fallen backwards here into the clutches of Oscar Berntsson. Berntsson all over the back of him now with Matt Strand there, so this could be the day of reckoning for Richard Simnor in terms of Berntsson wanting to pass him. We jump on board with your second place gold driver, third overall, and Winch is closer and closer and closer. Now looking one way then the other. Simnor covers him off here, making his defensive move. Berntsson tries to go around the outside. That's brave to go that tight under braking, and in the end he does rejoin the middle of the road. Simnor makes it so horrible for Oscar Berntsson there, and understandably, Richard Simnor really getting out his Dick Dastardly moves there, and that's absolutely illegal what he did. He said to Oscar Berntsson, if you want that inside line so badly, I'm going to give it to you and make it so tightening you're never making the corner. And that's why Berntsson backed off and darted back. But meanwhile, darting up the inside there is Kim Andre Bjørklund trying to finally make a move with Mark Collicott after getting Grodeliers cleared him. Oh, there's a bit of elbows out there. There's contact, and Kim Andre Bjørklund goes around again. He won't believe his luck. On lap number 1, he went around at turn number 2, and here on lap number 6, he goes around at turn number 10. Kim Andre Bjørklund right now definitely not enjoying the company of the silver drivers. Well, unfortunately for him, he's had another silver put himself in front, as Alan McCann can't quite do so, but Ollie Pimley definitely does so. So out of all your 12 starters, they're all running right now, all still together to a degree, and well, some fall and others rise. Well, meanwhile, Aaron Herbert is trying to rise to a challenge here of trying to make an overall win in the silver class, and therefore becoming an equal to Matt Sproul if he can. But meanwhile, Richard Simnor, Oscar Berntsson, Matt Strand, now 3 gold drivers, all chasing your leader down in the number 3, and right now he knows he's got a long way to go if he wants to make this a victory. But as he heads on, well, we need to take a quick look back at some of the big months on the start of this race, ladies and gentlemen, including what happened to Kim Andre Bjørklund on the opening lap. So this was your gold driver making his way on down, and you may remember he was side by side with the 42. That was none other than Richard Simnor, and into the corner they went. And in the end, well, the contention point, as we saw a bit of a tap there from Matt Strand to the front right of Kim Andre Bjørklund, was Simnor turned in on, or was he going deep into the corner? As then we had Alan McCain come charged back across the road. This was the Alan McCain incident, meanwhile. So he came out turns 2 and 3, got the power down, go through 4, took a lot of curb, and the curb and a lack of tyre temperature added up to create a spin. And with the car there rolling, he was holding on to his brakes, but the car in the end refused to stop until in the nick of time. But we then had this for Ollie Pimley a bit late on lap number 1. This was coming up towards turn number 12, and as he did so, we went around onto the grass, but exactly did he get there? And the answer is the rear of the car just let go on him. Again, cold tyres at that early stage of the race added up, and the rear of the car just not ready to settle down. Then we have to go forward to lap number 5 to see what happened to Fabrizio Penzo. He was battling for second place overall with Richard Simnor, and into the braking zone they came for Mercedes, and it looks like Penzo may have been slightly coming across diagonally there, as Simnor had already committed to braking, and I think Penzo was trying to cut across. Now, not saying to be fair that he intended to make contact, but it did look as though he was trying to break into the apex, whereas Simnor was straight line down. So the two were going to converge. Bit of a contentious one, that one. And then only a lap later, we had this for Kim Andre Bjørklund. Under braking through turn number 8. And as he made his way out, well, it's 3 wide here, a tap to the rear of his car from Alexander Longshoe, and then a further tap there from Mark Collicott, and that's what sent him around. But he found himself surrounded by silvers, and definitely right now almost feels as though he was tag teamed there by them, albeit that may not be the reality of the story. But back to your live racing we come. And right now, the sun comes back out. It decides to hide, but it's come out and smiling once again. Well, right now, Aaron Herbert still at 9/10 of a second clear ahead of Richardson, Oscar Berntsson and Matt Strand. And with the Ice Cold Racing duo right now catch up to DCW Racing Gold leader. And, well, I think this is going to be more about the battle for second here, at least for the time being, rather than the battle for the overall lead. And, well, all three of them, they know there's no point to beating a silver driver. Even if the silver driver takes the overall win, it makes no difference. But there is a small question of pride on the line, but can they forsake their pride here to focus on their battle in class? I think Simnor might be able to. I think Berntsson and Strand might want to move forward a little bit more, but of course the biggest value they've got is they've got to get past Simnor for the points and then see if they can close down Herbert. And we do know that Oscar Berntsson really pushed himself hard as much as possible. He did comment on it for the fact that after he got to the front of the field in the feature race last time out at Daytona, well, in fact at Sebring, let's correct ourselves there straight away, that he was a bit glum about the fact he couldn't close down Sparrow because of the amount of gap that had been built at that point. So Berntsson definitely does love taking those overall wins as well. There's an accolade to that in his mind, and understandably so. When you win, you want to win even more. But as they come through turns 15 and 16 right now, he's not able to win his way past Simnor just yet, albeit bounced off the apex curve there at turn 16. You can see the car hopping and skipping around, and well, the spring effect there definitely playing pogo. Meanwhile, we come back to the fight here for none other than third and fifth place. And well, in the middle of it, it's your fourth place driver, Alexandre Longshoe, who right now chased after Mark Collicott and these silver drivers all together, and we'll stick through to 8th there overall. But as they come through in towards turn number 2, well, Collicott right now just simply making sure to make himself wide enough when he needs to, and then pull away when he also needs to. So no real change between them. We'll be in the draft here. These stakes could not be higher as they roar the way down. As we do look from them up to the gold leaders, well, we can see they are closing Aaron Herbert down. And meanwhile, Matt Strand trying to go around the outside there. I think that was the bleed speed he went to the outside rather than attack. And well, Oscar Berntsson has seen it coming. I suspect both drivers are on communications to each other. But meanwhile, at the very front, and Paul ran out the hairpin there for Aaron Herbert's going to give Richard Simnor a chance. So Simnor looks around the outside here, coming through Mercedes. It's going to give the inside of turn number 10. That's the important one, but they get their elbows out immediately. And well, Simnor immediately stays with Aaron Herbert there. So Herbert does take it off of him. But here comes Oscar Berntsson. And Berntsson's going to look to the inside of Simnor now. Doors open, 3 wide on entry. And well, Herbert will clear the 2 of them. And Berntsson has to back off there. But both Simnor and Herbert go deep. Now Simnor immediately goes defensive there before returning to race line. Puts the car firmly in the middle of the road. And right now the pressure is building. It's getting to Herbert. It's getting to Simnor and Berntsson and Strand. They've just got to keep their cool. It's in the team name. And if they can be ice cold about this, they may just be able to make some magic happen as Herbert goes a bit wide there. That will be a track limit infringement. It won't be a slowdown. He didn't put all 4 wheels beyond the white line. However, he did put multiple wheels beyond, and they're not allowed to go too deep at that corner. And coming through its Lord curve right now, we've still got half the race to go. But Aaron Herbert definitely now feeling the pain and the pressure of being a silver leader ahead of a bunch of gold drivers for overall victory. This is not going to be easy. But further back, Mark Collicott, the gap between himself and Alexandre Longshoe has been slashed by 3/4. Longshoe looking around the outside here into 2. In the end, that's not going to come through for him. So instead, he's going to have to wait. Ollie Pimley, he's also on a mission here, trying to find his way back past Rob Van Hoot. Is that going to work for him? And the answer is almost. He gets a lot of power oversteer there coming up the corner. And once he gets the power down, well, in the end, that brings Alan McCain closer. So McCain right now sees an opportunity. Meanwhile, we've had Mark Collicott drop a long way back there. He's in your rear view picture. I wonder what exactly happened to him. As well, Fabrizio Penzo jumps up the inside of his rival from race number 1. But of course, by going that deep, now Alexandre Longshoe looks at the switchback here and will get the inside in towards turn number 7. And it's going to be a drag race between these two coming into the first stadium. They're 2 wide on entry. Who exactly is going to be ahead come the apex of turn number 8 at Mercedes? And the answer is that Penzo, he loves that tight inside line. He's able to get a really good exit out of there as well. Albeit Longshoe now looking around the outside, but goes to turn in, and Penzo plants the car on the apex and says, "What are you going to do? I'm still here." And Fabrizio Penzo moves into third there in the silver class. Lovely move from him. Now can he keep Longshoe behind him for a bit longer? That's the next question. Meanwhile, Ollie Pimley has found his way ahead of Rob Van Hoot, who's also been passed by Alan McCain. And we get a quick replay of what exactly happened between them, as we also take a look back at what exactly happened to Mark Collicott. So Collicott at the time was third in silver as he came out turns 2, 3 and 4. Took all the apex curve, too much steering wheel, and the rear of the car going into a slight spin. He just avoided the barrier there. My goodness, that was a hair's width or so. And the marshals there will be grateful for that. It's made their jobs a lot easier. So he rejoined, and then we had this move from Ollie Pimley to pass none other than Rob Van Hoot coming in towards the hairpin. So Van Hoot put himself in the middle of the road. Where did Pimley go? He went to the inside, so he did go for it to Pimley. McCain looked around the outside here, under braking. When then Van Hoot turned in to find Pimley had gone for it, so he went deep. Pimley went wide, and Alan McCain was able to pick up 1 place. He couldn't quite pick up 2, and that explains the change of the places between the trio. But without further ado, we make our way back to your live racing. And as we do, well, what's exactly happening at the very front? No change at the moment, albeit we have had a bit of drama for Alexandre Longjou. The BB1 Sim Racing driver has come into the pit lane after an off-track. We will get a replay where we can, but I suspect he's picked up some excess damage to the car and they've had to retire it due to damage. And if so, he's out. And that's sad, 'cause that'll be our first retirement of the day beyond the non-stop for Ryan Davies. But as Herbert makes his way onwards, well, Simnor, Strand, Berntsson and Grondeliers are all caught up. So Glenn Grondeliers has been very steadily making his way into this group. In fact, lap to lap, he has been lapping 3/10 of a second faster than everyone else in front of him. But I think that's because they're all caught up behind Aaron Herbert, to be fair. But Grondeliers for right now, well, he's been able to get close to this. If it all really kicks off in the final 10 minutes, which we suspect it will at some point, he could yet make it a back-to-back silver win here. The only problem is he's got to find his way past the leader of this race right now, of Aaron Herbert, who you see here in the number 3. He is the silver leader, and that's the problem that Grondeliers has. Albeit a first and a second today, that would still be worth the best part of 38 points. It would almost be a perfect day, but he would want some more if he wants to give himself respite at Adelaide. But as they come on to lap number 12, well, when we look a bit further back, we do see Ollie Pimney right now started to gap. Oh, I say that, he's not going to be gapping for much longer as he goes very sideways, going through a Seward curve. He was going to start gapping Alan McCain, but McCain right now is going to take confidence here. The Ghost Watcher Esports car has definitely worn its tyres down a bit aggressively, and coming through Nord curve, right now McCain 3/10 behind as Rob Van Hoek goes a little bit deep, and that's going to see him fall a bit further back by comparison. But from them, back to leaders. And well, your top 4 here coming down. Grondeliers a bit too far back to get involved here, but now Simnor, he's got the draft. Can he go around the outside? He's going to try it, but we can see there Matt Strand taking a peek. In fact, Strand and Berntsson have swapped places around recently, so that's a change. But understandably, I think that's there to give the other driver an opportunity. But Strand right now on a mission to close up as they make the way through turn 7 into 8, and well, side by side they go. And well, right now Aaron Herbert goes defensive as Simnor looks all the way around the outside, and well, they're going to go all the way through. And in the end, Aaron Herbert right now still there. Simnor still with him, however, but he does have the outside line. He will gain about a mile now on exit or so, but in fact, there's going to be a bit of a tussling. Oh my good lord! He gets so close to the wall there as they come out to turn number 10, and it is they come through. This contact Aaron Herbert is turned sideways. They all back off, and with Aaron Herbert, it's all gone backwards and into the dust just like that. As meanwhile, Richard Simnor, well, the number 42 driver here takes the lead of this race, but we need a replay 2 of that because I think there's more than meets the eye of that one. And Oscar Berntsson about Strand coming through. And suddenly the silver lead goes to Glenn Grondeliers. Well, we did say it was only going to take a matter of time before some drama kicked off. We didn't mean for it to happen that quickly, and we weren't even into the final 10 minutes of the race, which we now do go into, onto lap number 13. And right now, Aaron Herbert will be fuming about what's happened there. And I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to catch up and go forward tilt towards his rivals. We'll see about that as they make the way onwards in time. We're going to take a look back in time very shortly as, in fact, Alan McCain's at the spin. That's out the final quarter. I'm not quite sure what's happened to the 212 driver. It's all got around. It's not looking sound as he gets himself pointed back in the right direction. But as he gets himself restored, meanwhile, restore your picture to Matt Strand, who's now got Glenn Grondeliers for close company. And, well, the Pegasus is a sim racing driver. What do you do in this situation? Do you fight the gold? I think he has to, because Aaron Herbert, despite what happened to him, is already started to close back up. So Grondeliers right now cannot afford to become complacent. He needs to go on the attack here. He needs to get into those gold drivers, who I suspect have really used up a lot of their tyre life. Kim Andre Bjørklund, he's going to try and make his way past Mark Collicott. He does up the inside of turn 6. That's the overall position, but he's still 7th, and he's a long way back from the top 4. He's the tune of 11 seconds or so. So therefore for Bjørklund, right now he's got to hope that Dismay and Drama falls on the top 3 of the golds, as otherwise he's not gaining any more points out of this race, and therefore it does look as though that championship lead will be going more and more towards Matt Strand, and in the end Oscar Berntsson will be levelling the field with Bjørklund at least, if not ahead of him, and meanwhile Strand will be the championship leader going into the final round. That's quick mental mathematics. It may not be accurate. Indeed, your results may vary. But meanwhile, Richard Simnor, your leader in the 42, still holding on, but Berntsson is breathing down his neck. He's not done as Berntsson. He's becoming a bit of a grim reaper of this race in terms of picking off the places one by one. And well, can he claim the last one before time is done? As I head on to the next lap, we head back in time and give you an explanation as to what exactly happened. Started, of course, with Alexandre Longjou's retirement. So this was the BB1 sim racing driver chasing Fabrizio Penzo, coming in towards turn 12, and as he did so, well, went wide there, got the power down too soon, off track, rejoined, I think coming back onto the road there, something must have broke because he shortly made his way into the pit lane after that, and there he went. I think for Alexandre Longjou, that was it. Something had broken on the car, and the team had decided enough was enough. But meanwhile, this battle between Richard Simmel and Aaron Herbert, we come back to this, and this was the brilliant battle between the two as they made the way through Mercedes, and they were too wide on exit here, but as they came out, Simmel on that inside, so it was the prime position to be in, albeit elbows out. Aaron Herbert almost went to the wall there with elbows out from Simmel inside, and then it was a move up the inside there from none other than, I believe, that was Matt Strand who came in and made that contact. So that explains it, we think. Can we get an on board from Matt Strand? Here he was. So yeah, Strand was player number 3 in all of this, and well, Indian had to back off from Simmel, then went forward, looked to the inside, and unfortunately just taps the rear right quarter panel of none other than Aaron Herbert, and that is what sent him on around. And the ice cold racing by Maxim Racing Driver in the end will release the place there to Oscar Berntsson. I think feeling a degree of guilt already as to what exactly happened there. And then we had this big moment for Alan McCain a little bit later. This was McCain making his way on through. And as he did so in the Iris Esports car, coming around the final quarter, just lost the rear end there. And as quick as that, he could not get it righted. And Rob Van Hoot taking evasive action there. Very well done to him. But as we make our way back to live racing, well, we had that drama, but right now still more to come. And well, as they go up into 2 wheels, they're all 4 of your leaders right now. They're all pushing each other. Richard Simmel still holding on. 2.5 attempts. He's got 7 minutes to go. He's got this lap plus another 4, if our maths is correct. And therefore, Oscar Berntsson now has multiple chances available to him as he breathes harder and harder on his rival's neck. But making the way through the parabolic curve right now. Berntsson within a tenth, within half a tenth here. He's going to look to the inside. He's done this before. It hasn't worked out. Simmel pins him down, and in the end, it's going to be all the way out the inside of Berntsson. So he is going to go for it. Simmel gives it the space there. Wants the better exit, but Oscar Berntsson gets the wheels turned on very nicely, and now it's a drag racing towards Mercedes Arena. Simmel's going to look around the outside. He'll try to hold the inside in towards turn number 8. If he can do that, he's then got to try and fight his way around the outside at turn number 10. And that's exactly why Bernsson's not going to back off of this. He knows if he can hold it all the way to turn number 10, he might have this. It's going to be essentially a deja vu with what happened between Simmel and Herbert on the previous lap. As they come out the corner, no elbows between these two at least for now. And in the end, Richard Simmel does get back ahead. Simmel just putting this all together brilliantly as we ride aboard and look back for the rear of the DCW Racing number 42. And coming out to the corner and in towards turn number 12. You can see there, that's Matt Strand now taking a bit of a poke and probe at the ice cold racing driver. So they're constantly swapping back and forth here. And Berntsson and Strand right now, I suspect they'll both be on the radio to each other. And understandably, this is a difficult one because they both want to do well. They want it to be a 1-2 for the team. But I wonder if Strand at this point is probably thinking, well, I've got Glenn Grodeliers behind me and I kind of need to make sure that I get the maximum possible points. But Berntsson, of course, selfishly will be thinking to himself, well, I need all the points as well to be able to take you on in the final. But both drivers as well, we need to be careful. Oh my good lord. As in the end, Oscar Berntsson then goes up into 2 wheels, comes down, he just stops short of over compressing the suspension on the left hand side of the car, but keep doing that and he's only going to make the risk greater. As meanwhile, your silver leader Glenn Grodeliers, well, despite the fact he's on the back of this group, the pace of this group is such it's actually surpassing Aaron Herbert, who with a bit of damage to the car and also worn tyres. He is lapping about a tenth a lap slower at the moment, so Herbert is within distance shot. 2 seconds is the gap to the leaders, but he's not quite close enough to get involved. Now, here we go again into the hairpin. This time, Oscar Berntsson goes one side, Strand goes the other side of him. But Simmel, in the end, is not fazed by all of it. He can say to them, for all your theatrics, that's not going to work. And in the end, Richard Simmel just holds his line, and Berntsson wasn't close enough, and Strand was not. That was more to try and intimidate him, but it didn't work. Glenn Grodeliers, meanwhile, we ride aboard the dashboard of the number 99, and the Pegasus Sim Racing driver coming through turn number 7. Well, he's very close here, and Aaron Herbert has actually gained a whole 8 tenths there from that hairpin run in the Mercedes Stadium Arena section. So therefore, right now, you can see the damage that is being done to the Belgians' race. It's not over yet for the silver win then. We could see Aaron Herbert get involved, but he's got to inch himself just that little bit closer if he wants to put the fight on versus the sprint race winner from today. Grodeliers, of course, go for the perfect 40, but can Aaron Herbert spoil the party? There he is at the bottom of the picture coming through. But whilst all this is happening, we've also got a bit of a battle building between Fabrizio Penzo and Kim Andre Bjørklund. And in the end, Bjørklund just not quite close enough there, and Penzo decided to cut off his nose. And we're coming through turns 13 to 14 right now. Number 55 drivers trying to be as tactical as he can about this. And Bjørklund right now trying to squeeze out the inside, but Penzo, every time he does so, just simply chops off his nose and says to it, you're not close enough. I'm going to turn in. If your nose is there, we're both going around and both going to the stewards room after it's indeed driving in an approach of live or die right now to Fabrizio Penzo, but to be fair, he knows where the rules lie. But as they make their way on to what will be the penultimate lap of racing, well, he pulls away from Bjørklund. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Simnor still ahead. 2 tenths is the gap once again. This is becoming repetitive, but to be fair, we love repetition because we get to see a brilliant battle. And as they come down towards turn 6, well, what does Berntsson do this time? Well, Simnor defends the inside. Berntsson this time does get the outside, but Simnor brings the car to the middle of the road. He seems so comfortable as Richardson, but it doesn't matter where you put him on this one. But corner exit, and this time Berntson's actually had a really good run off the corner. He's going to get the side draft here as they make their way in towards turn number 7. Looking around the outside to inside, he gets ahead there. Simnor does not have a good run into Mercedes, and right now Berntson's just got to park the car. He does exactly that. Simnor goes to the switchback, and Berntsson now's got the inside through 9 and 10. That's going to be perfect for him now. As they make the way on down, we can see Simnor still there. He's going to look around the outside here, but can he get the run in towards turn 11? He's going to commit to it. That's brave from Simnor. There's not much tarmac out there. He used all the runoff space. Here comes Matt Strand as well. There's still 2 wide coming to 12. Simnor dives the inside, and Berntsson goes high, using the cab of the road. Small touch between the two. There's another contact, and it sends Simnor around. It's a small touch. It escalates into a bigger one, and suddenly Simnor goes spinning around. But to be fair, he drove right on the line. They both did. It was either going to be the most beautiful battle we've seen, or it was going to turn into tears. And instead it was the latter, and Oscar Berntsson does take the lead, and Matt Strand right behind him. And well, goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, as Glenn Grodeliers and Aaron Herbert now follow the 2 gold leaders. It's the top 2 of gold and the top 2 of silver. You couldn't make this up, as Kim Andre Bjørklund meanwhile has picked up a black flag for instant points. He's into the pit lane for a drive-through penalty. That's going to drop him down the overall order. It will not take him away from his current result of the gold class, which will be 4th place. But understand, with the Sim Racing Norway driver at this point, he's thinking to himself, what on earth do I have to do in order to get some major points? Well, Kim Andre, if we knew, we would tell you. But as we do see Berntsson make his way onwards, well, can we get a replay of what happened there as we've gone on to our final lap? And here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen. What a battle this was. But in the end, it came down to a small touch. Through 12 they went. You can see door to door there initially at the apex, then on exit. And the big question mark will be, who was on the path to hit the other car first? Was it Simnor taking too much speed out the corner and colliding with Berntsson, or was Berntsson coming on too strong at the exit of the corner and closing off the right for Simnor to be able to make the exit of the corner? That is going to be the big stewarding question. The camera angles there, not really indicative. We do think that perhaps Simnor was a bit of a diagonal line with Berntsson, which you would expect, but then it's the question of, did Berntsson close him down at the apex or not? And that is the hard question that you have to wonder. As Scanigan there, well, he's definitely got an emoji with regards to the shock and surprise, but right now Oscar Berntsson has made that move stick, and well, there may be a cloud hanging over his race, but he won't be thinking about that right now because of the simple reason he's got the job done. But as he makes well through, we've got another lap to come there. So 19 laps will be the distance with 20 seconds left on the clock. And Strand, Grodeliers and Herbert all together. Your top 4 now in close proximity to each other. And we're going to stay with them every step of the remainder of the way, because we ride aboard the front bump here of Aaron Herbert's car, the Innovation Racing number 3. And bouncing its way on around, and my goodness, the fact that right now these drivers are already attacking those curves right at the end, well, not quite sure where the bravery's come from, but to be fair, we applaud it. And Herbert hoping he can perhaps just get Grodeliers to make one small mistake before all is said and done. But right now, Grodeliers has been absolutely composed. He has been absolutely resolute for Pegasus Sim Racing. And for Aaron Herbert, for Innovation Racing, he'll be ruining what was that instant earlier on at turn number 11, what could have been. But right now, he's still got to think of the present. He could still make some magic happen here, albeit he's got to be brave to get this done. And as he comes into the corner really late on the brakes there, that is the Concertina effect amplifying it, but how late he was and gets so close to the back of the car in front. Now, off camera, we have had Rob Van Hoot end up towing to the pit lane due to an incident of some description, and Alan McCain, we believe, has been caught up in one as well. But McCain's still out there as we almost lose our bumper camera for Aaron Herbert. He is absolutely frying the car at these apexes right now. He saves himself, right, I'm going to try and get Grodeliers to feel as though I'm going to hit him on the rear, scare him into a mistake, but that doesn't quite work there. Grodeliers right now 9. If he is scared into a mistake, he'll be a tap to the rear of the car, and Aaron Herbert will pay the price for it in the steward's room. But as they come down in towards turn number 12, Berntsson right now still ahead of Strand. It is going to be a 1-2 here for Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing in gold, and well, Strand hasn't got a response. So as they make their way through the last couple of corners, well, it's been 19 laps of absolutely terrific action, and at the end of it, your main star has been none other than Oscar Berntsson, who comes on home to make it back-to-back victories here at the Hockenheimring. He takes the perfect 40 head of Matt Strand, who is run up into 1-2 for Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing. Then Greg Grodeliers takes a perfect 40 in the silver class with third place overall, just ahead of Aaron Herbert, who finishes runner-up runner-up. Richard Simnor comes home 30 of golds, 5th on the road, ruin what could have been. And Fabrizio Penzo makes it onto the silver podium. Well done to him. That, I do believe, is his first silver podium of the season. And he will be ahead of Mark Collicott there, who finishes 7th, with Ollie Pimney in 8th. And Kim Andre Bjørklund after his black flag drive-through penalty taking 9th. And he will be your last lead. That finish with both Alan McCain and Rob Van Hoot having to go to the pit lane after being involved in an incident of some description. And will both cars definitely in an unsalvageable condition to be able to carry on. As all our drivers cool on down, what a race it has been. And, well, you can see your top 3 here. They all pull alongside each other. Albeit I think Richard Simnor there giving the eyes there. And I wonder if he had his 2 fingers pointing towards his eyes and then pointing towards Oscar Berntsson and Matt Strand. But they all pulled together there. And they enjoyed the racing, no doubt about it. Very fierce racing between them. But Oscar Berntsson and Matt Strand savouring the moment of a 1-2 for ice cold racing by Maxim Racing. When they happen, they always feel special for a team. But as they cool them down, well, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, after an absolutely terrific 30 minutes of racing in our feature race for round number 9 of the Race by Wire Porsche Cup Season 1, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Energize Virtual Solutions, Oscar Berntsson was able to come through from 10th to take the win. But to do so, he had to get right into the thick of the fighting, and in the end he was able to and finish ahead of his teammate of Matt Strand there by 9 tenths at the line. Matt Strand completed the 1-2 by the Ice Cold Racing team, and behind the Nordic pair it was none other than Pegasus Sim Racers Glenn Gronaliers, your silver winner today, who picked up the pieces when they fell away from Aaron Herbert. And despite the fact that Aaron Herbert was close behind him right towards the end on the last couple of laps, he did not feel the pressure for the Pegasus from the Innovation Racing driver, and the Pegasus Sim Racing driver was able to hold on to make it the perfect score. Aaron Herbert runner-up in this one, and will be gutted at the fact he finished runner-up, but what a drive for him, to be fair. And at some respect, I think he was going to be taking the overall win, but it didn't quite work out. But he can't become too disheartened. The Innovation Racing driver really showing us today what he's made of. Richard Simnor rounded off the top 5 there with 3rd in the gold class for DCW Racing Blue, and whilst that 5th place will hurt, it can't take away from the fact he enjoyed an absolutely valiant battle with Fabrizio Penzo there, bringing on home 6th place, and with it his first silver podium of the season. Well done to the privateer. Mark Collicott wasn't too far behind, taking 7th there for DCW Racing Red, 2 seconds ahead of Ollie Pimley, who rounded off your silver top 5 with 8th. And the Go Squadron Esports Stride had a bit of a frustrating at race number 2 compared to his race 1, but not as frustrating as Kim Andre Bjørklund, who went at 4th in gold. But understandably, the Sim Racing Norway driver, we wondered today what exactly he's been missold with regards to his performances, because it has not been a happy run over the last 3 rounds, including this one. It was then a lap down retirement for both Rob Van Hoot and Alan McCain, and outside the top 11 we did see a very early retirement for Alexandre Longju by comparison, and the BB1 Sim Racing driver ahead of your non-starter. Technical issues preventing him from going racing today. Ryan Davies there in 13th. The Empire Motorsport team had to pack up their bags before they could get the car going in the races due to technical problems. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, that calls our racing to a close, and what a pair of races we've had. And as we said right at the start of going racing, it's not about the quantity of drivers, it's about the quality, and we have seen some absolutely quality racing action from the 12 who were able to make it onto the grid today, and long may it continue when we head to Adelaide in a week's time for our season finale. But whilst our racing has concluded, this broadcast has not quite concluded, because coming up in approximately 5 minutes time, we do have the prospects, of course, some potential interviews with our drivers, and I'm sure we might hear the thoughts of 1 or 2 who've got plenty to say about the racing today. But we'll leave you that thought, and we'll be back as soon as we possibly can for our post-round interviews, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for post-round interviews. And the best drive to kick it off with is one right in the thick of the fighting from the outset, because joining us now in the interview room is none other than Richard Simnor, as he does come on in. Well, good evening to you, Richard, and what a day of racing you had. And to be fair, we may not have had many gold drives out there, but you found yourself right at the front of it all. How was it for you at the Hockenheimring?
That second race was definitely a sweaty one. Yeah, first race was all right, bit chill. Sort of had one of those really nice races, you know, when you've just got a bit of a gap in front, a bit of a gap behind, and you just sort of relax into it and sort of do your laps. If I had a race like that every week, I'd be a very peaceful man. But yeah, second race, yeah, geez, I mean, there's not much to talk about in the first race. I'll be honest. I just start to finish. There you go. Second race, man, I mean, I was just watching it all back, so I've got it all fresh in my mind. But like T2 at lap 1, and I've got a car to my right. The overlap is only just finishing. I can't quite confidently tuck in behind him, and I think like Kim just expected me to be there right on the apex, but I wasn't going to be on the apex. You know, it was just not enough room for me on the inside. So I took a wider line. I don't think he anticipated it, and he tapped me and he went around, which. You know, in these cars as well, if you get a tap at the wrong moment, if you're fully loaded, it's just going to send you around, which obviously brings us to far later in the race. But yeah, then it was sort of a case of catching up with the silver drivers, they were just going for it, which was great to see. There's 3 really fighty guys, including Mark, my teammate. When we had the opportunity. He was like, look, just tuck in and then sort of swing round and I'll let you through, which worked quite nicely. He got between me and Oscar. Great stuff, you know. And then I think the 2 in front of me, was it Herbert and Penzo, is it?
Yes.
I'll be honest, Herbert is brilliant. You know, he knew where to put his car. He was a bit wily on some of the moves, but it was all fair and it was good. And he defended so well through the race, so it was really hard to get by. But Penzo, I don't know, we got, I always think, is it Mercedes, the left-hander? I can remember, it's Mercedes stand, isn't it? And he just turns in, like, at the 50-metre board. And I'm like, well, you can't do that. You just can't turn in, 50 metres before you're supposed to be turning in. And he spun around. And I'm angling towards the apex, so it's not like I'm angling towards him. He's turning into me, and I don't know what to say. Like, there's not much I can do in that situation. It was obvious as a gold driver against a silver driver, I wanted to get in front, and it was obvious that's what I was doing, and that was my intention. The body language was clear. If he's going to turn in to 30, 40, 50 meters early, sorry. It's all I can say. There's not much I can do. I was already committed to the corner, and I was always going to hit the apex, so. It's a shame for him because I'm sure he would have liked to have been at the front for the rest of the race. And then just sort of got past Herbert and then Oscar just came, and I just knew like it was going to happen at some point. He was going to start to poke his nose. I was fair, I think. I was fair in my defence into the hairpin every lap. Sometimes I could tell that he was going to go along that white painted line on the inside if that was the last thing he did. And I was kind of expecting that might be his last lap gamble. But I gave him enough to let him know that, if he's going to do it, we're just going to end up hitting at the apex. And he was sensibly backed out. And then there was the sort of final lap before I eventually spun. We were just side by side pretty much the whole way, and I'm sure you would have caught it on the broadcast. It was hair raising for me because just having to play a game of chess whilst driving a car, whilst thinking, I'm nearly at my X count. I can't get a 4X. We'll see what happens. And then, I said in chat to him earlier, it was just like, I can't bemoan it really. We both went into the hairpin in the complex, and we had a little tap, only a door bang. But then my car just ended up sliding for the rest of the hairpin, and by the time it decided to right itself, I then sort of flung out wide and hit him again, and then it spun me. Which again, I think, I don't know if this is just iRacing physics or if that would have happened in real life. But I'd like to think that, yeah, actually looking back, that was probably what was always going to happen at that point. Which is a shame, coming third. I probably would have come third anyway, because I'm pretty sure those two would have absolutely sent me last lap. But it was great fun. Absolutely enjoyed it. One of those really nice races where good hard racing, start to finish. But yeah, sweaty.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I really appreciate the insights from yourself straight away in both races. And the feature race, like you say, it was absolutely intense. There was no breather whatsoever. And one of the most intense races we've seen all season. And beyond that, I mean, that then leaves me the question to say, can we expect the same from yourself at Adelaide in a week's time?
I mean, oh God, the last time I raced there was in Sunday's GT3 leagues with Sim Racing, and you commentate on that one, and I'm pretty sure you know how that went for me. It didn't last a lap, so we'll see. I mean, hopefully people will come back for the last race. Unfortunately, because it's a new track, the likelihood is a lot of people will just be a bit dissuaded by spending the money for the new track, and probably won't turn up. But I'll be there, and I'll give it my all. And it's been a great season racing with these guys. You learn a lot. You learn a lot racing up against people like that. Yeah, it's good for me, for my own personal growth and improving my pace season on season. And yeah, when you start off thinking, oh my God, Oscar is, I think at Miami he was racing on ahead, and he caught me in that race as well, and just absolutely overtook me. You sort of think, oh my God, this is going to be the guy who's going to win the championship. To then getting to the last few rounds where, like at Sebring last time round, I was genuinely at the race. I just needed another lap, and I would have probably caught and overtook him because I'd preserved my tyres better. And I just think, actually, I know what my advantage is now, and I just need to play on that advantage and try and get through to the end. And yeah, the Hockenheim's not one of those circuits, though. It's not like Sebring where there's more opportunities to overtake. I think Hockenheim, you've only got very limited chances, and as you see on the broadcast, when you do get side by side, it's not done. It's not done for another 5 corners. You've got to really be quite lucky to get it done just in the one go. But yeah, what a race! And hopefully you're interviewing Oscar next, and I'm sure he'll give you his insight as well. And yeah, well done to the two of them as well, because Matt's obviously benefited from it all, and he's doing really great. So what a great couple of guys.
Oh, 100%. And really appreciate you giving them both a shout out. And we will be having a chat with Oscar shortly. But I do have to ask, you were saying there about the fact that at the start of the season, of course, Oscar really were the top names flying away. And as the season has gone on, you've been able to really catch up. What's the one thing you feel as though you've learned over the course of this season?
I mean, it's a new car for me. It's a new car for the guys at DCW. We all, decide, roughly speaking, what we want to race as a team. And, we all decided, let's do P Cup because a few of the guys loved the previous car. And I think it's obvious from the attendance tonight, it was just being me and Mark, that the general sentiment is that it's a horrid car. But actually, that's not really true. I think that the thing that I've learned is how to work around the suspension. It is bouncy, it is horrendous, but you will have to just adapt your style a little bit to it. And I think over the course of the season, and you know what, Andy will say the same. I mean, he's put in some really good performances as well. You've just got to adapt to that car, and how it will work on the brakes, and how the shift in momentum and center of gravity affects how you're going to be braking and turning in. It's a lot more pronounced than, say, a GT3 car, which is very stiff. You can pretty much jam the brakes on and then lift and turn in. These cars, you really got to be quite progressive on the brake, on the throttle, be a lot more muted in your inputs in a lot of sense. So yeah, this is the sort of thing, like with more practice, with more practice, if you just do the laps, if you put the time in, you'll improve and you'll get used to the car. And the fact that I've been able to even be in the same race as these guys who, you know, they turn up to practice and they're putting in a lap that's like a second quicker than me, and I'm like, okay, how are we getting that time? And I have to observe them and go, right, okay, that's what they're doing. I'll try that. And you know, I got within a good 4 tenths by the end of practice, so that wasn't too bad. And then to be leading that race, knowing that Oscar is quicker, in fact the whole field of gold drivers is quicker than me, and hold on until, I mean, it was 2 laps. I just needed 2 more laps, but yeah, it was good fun.
Oh, 100%. It's really insightful to hear about what you've been able to focus on over time and adapting and getting used to the Porsche 92.2 Cup car. Richard, it's been so great having you in. We'll leave it there for now, but as I get ready to let you go, of course, one final question, which is, do you want to give anybody a shout out or a mention on the broadcast?
Yeah, I'll give Mark a shout out. He turned up, bless him. Virtually no practice, qualified last, but actually did quite well in the races. Bearing a few, you know, incidents here and there, and maybe a spin or two, but you know, he's got no time. He didn't have much time in the week to get any practice in, and he's turned up anyway. Keep me company, and you know, have good camaraderie in the chat and stuff. It's great to have him there, and hopefully he'll be there next week. We'll see, or it'll be me on my Lowson. But no, thanks Mark for being there tonight. I really appreciate it.
I'm sure Mark will appreciate the shout out, and we appreciate the fact that both you have confirmed that you're not the same person, given the fact we have now seen you both on the circuit together simultaneously, where that's not happened in the past. But Richard, we'll leave it there. Congratulations today on enjoying the thick of the fighting, particularly in the feature race. Absolutely tremendous. Wasn't quite the win, but goodness me, did you win the hearts of many? And we will see you at Adelaide for the season finale. So here now from none other than Richard Simnor, ladies and gents, and the DCW Racing Blue driver, who had plenty to say. And to be fair, why wouldn't he have plenty to say? He's absolutely loved the racing here today. I skipped over qualifying and the sprint, to be fair, but the sprint race was definitely a quiet one. He said if every race was like that, he would be a peaceful man. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to quite find his zen in the feature race by comparison, with that incredible fight for the win that started, of course, with him nipping at the heels of Fabrizio Penzo and Aaron Herbert for the lead. And when Penzo there made that little bit of contact with him, as he would say, and indeed Richardson all giving his thoughts on what happened at Mercedes Arena, well, then we got to see it was Simnor chasing down Aaron Herbert, but also having to try and juggle, keeping Oscar Berntsson and Matt Strand behind. And what a battle it was, but unfortunately it went wrong coming out of turn number 12 with 2 laps to go, with just a small touch and a secondary touch being the difference and sending him on the round. But to be fair, he can't begrudge, he can't bemoan what happened between himself and the Ice Cold Racing drivers. In the end, coming down to a minor contact, something that was always going to happen at such intense racing speeds, and with elbows out every step of the way, and the fact he's able to look back on it and be so happy with how far he's come over the season, and the fact that he is rubbing shoulders with the best drivers out there on this grid as he sees them. Well, it shows you the fact that Richard Simnor has gone, in a way, from zero to hero as the season has gone on, and really got to grips with the Porsche Cup car. And I do wonder whether at Adelaide he's going to be giving us the perfect swan song of the season and perhaps be taking an overall win. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll find out more from him in a week's time. But of course, we've got one more interview to come. And next up, it's none other than Oscar Berntsson. Let's give ourselves a minute, and we'll be back right with him very shortly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to our second interview, it's none other than Oscar Berntsson, who now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Oscar. And well, we've just heard from Richard Simnor and his take on what was the absolutely incredible feature race. But for yourself, of course, you've had an incredible day as a whole, because, of course, it's back-to-back wins. It's a perfect 40, and it means after missing an extra round, you're right back up there now come the season finale.
Yeah, it was a pretty good day. I didn't expect that much out of it. We could also see on the quality times that I wasn't that much ahead that I usually am. I've been doing the National Swedish Championship in the TCR cars a lot lately, so it's weird to drive a proper Porsche Cup again. But I I managed to get all the 40 points, and I can't really complain.
Oh, 100%. I mean, definitely can't complain at that. And interesting about the fact, talking that they're going from TCR machines to the rear engine, rear wheel drive Porsche Cup car. Just for our viewers at home, what's the one thing that you feel you have to adjust to in terms of your driving style? Because, of course, they're completely different in the way they handle.
Yeah, I've I've always driven rear wheel drive. Uh, it's driving front wheel drive feels so weird since in rear wheel drive you got the rear tires to accelerate, and that's their only job, and also not to make the rear loose. And you got the front tires to just steer the car, so the car becomes very balanced. But in the TCRs you have to. My feeling is that it's impossible to get the TCR setup balanced because on entry you have to have it so oversteery to get it to steer on the exit, and if you have it stable on the entry, you have to. Oh well, you will get understeer on the exit since you have both the the driving or whatever it's called on the front wheels and the steering. So there's not much grip to take from it. So it's tough adjusting. Um, it's the brakes in the Porsche Cup is much better, but the speed you come into the corners with the Porsche Cup is so much higher than the TCR. So that it's it doesn't feel like we're on the same sim when I'm driving the TCR cars. So I'm happy to be back in the Porsche Cup.
Oh, well, fair. We're very happy to see you back in the Porsche Cup car, and I really appreciate you giving us your thoughts there, the comparison of the two and the different drivetrains. But coming back to where your beating heart is with regards to the Porsche Cup machinery, qualifying, as you mentioned, not quite as far ahead in qualifying as you would have liked to be, but still on pole by 3 attempts. I mean, it looks though yourself and the Hockenheimring are a natural fit.
Yeah, it's a track I feel it's pretty cool. It got a lot of, or well, it don't really to be fair, but I managed it good still, I think. I'm usually fast in the medium and high speed, and this track got a lot of low speed, so. But yeah, something I'm doing right, I guess. But yeah, I've been driving the track a lot. It was one of the first tracks I drove with the old Porsche Cup. Um, so yeah, a lot of good memories with it, and yeah, it's a good stretch of asphalt to be racing on.
Or fair play. A circuit that you definitely associate with your time in Porsche Cup, as you mentioned only months ago, in terms of starting out in the earlier Porsche Cup cars, but with a good pole lap, a good sprint race. I mean, race number one really was you in control, and at no point did you really look at threat. Did it feel that way, or did it feel as though you had to push hard to hold the lead?
I saw Kim Andre's times in practice, uh, and I have to say that I was really afraid, uh, but I still managed to get a gap pretty fast, so he didn't uh, have like that much of a draft on me. And then it was just no risks, just having it stable and taking it to the finish. On the last few laps, I realized that I had pushed the tires a bit too much in the start, so I started to feeling them. Um, I could have gone faster in the end, but I didn't see the reason to do it. It was just a pretty unnecessary risk. I had the lead by 1.7 seconds at most, so it was take it to the finish and yeah, just get the points.
All fair play. A smart way of ending race number one. But of course, now we have to come on and talk about race number two, the feature race. I mean, from 10th, making your way through the field, we always expect you to come on through. But the second half of the race, an absolutely titanic battle for the win between yourself, Richard Simnor, your teammate Matt Strand, Aaron Herbert as well, and Glenn Gondoliers behind. I mean, you must be absolutely knackered from that.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was just amazing. I mean, the the respect we both had for each other, everyone there, um, and just the good thing was that since it was race 2, it's a pretty long race, so you're never really stressed. You want to get past, but it's not super stressed, so they're like you don't make any stupid moves. So I mean, it was just an amazing race. It's a shame it ended the way it did for Richard, but I mean, we were battling on a insane level for what was it, 25 minutes or something. Someone is going to make a mistake. It's never going to work without an incident. Um, so I mean, it's a shame, but I I am very happy for the good fight, and I hope Richard also is that and can see it in that way instead of seeing it as just a crash out.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we spoke to him only months ago, and he definitely sees it in a positive light like yourself. Whilst it was a shame, I mean, when you two were racing so close, something was going to happen at some point. We couldn't have it be perfect forever, but in the end, you're able to survive it and bring on home that second win. And just with regards to obviously overhauling a big deficit, now 240 scores back to back, you go into our season finale second place in the gold class, and with only your teammate Matt Strand ahead, I mean, surely it's all to play for at Adelaide.
Yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to it. The chances of me winning is incredibly low. Then something is going to have to go wrong for Matt Strand, and yeah, that's the last thing I want to happen for him. So he's going to win the championship, and I'm very happy for him. We will have a 1-2 in the gold championship. Uh, I believe we also will win the team championship if we look at it that way also. Um, so I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Of course, we also have Kim Andre just 1 point behind. So, and it's a pretty narrow city track with a lot of walls. So it's easy that something will happen though. And yeah, I'm sure there will be a more of a fight for the second place between me and Kim Andre than between me and Mats for the win. But I'm looking forward to it. I haven't driven the track though, but it looks fun. It looks dangerous. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, to be fair, I do really appreciate the fact that whilst obviously you have a chance, it's an outside chance perhaps compared to your teammate Matt's, and well, the 1-2 for the team would be absolutely fantastic, but obviously needing to stay ahead of Kim Andre, who's only 1 point behind. So we'll see how it all goes down at Adelaide in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Uh, yeah, to the community here, the Race by Wire, you, Paul Walsh, the team. A special thanks to Matt who helped me being calm in the feature race, and yeah, just and also to Richard for an amazing battle, and yeah, much more than that. I'm just very grateful for everyone.
Well, Oscar, we're very grateful to have you with us on the grid week in, week out, and also to join me for a post-round interview. It's been great to hear from you and hear your perspective on the huge battle that's played out today. Well done on taking pole position and both wins. It's been incredible to see, and we will see you at Adelaide to see whether you can at least make it 1-2 for Ice Cold Racing, or whether perhaps you might even be able to sneak the championship in. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
So hearing there from Oscar Berntsson, ladies and gentlemen, an extended edition interview, much like with Richard Simnor prior. And whilst we may have only heard from two drivers today, we've heard from two of our biggest stars in the grid. And from Oscar Berntson's perspective here, loved that battle with Richard Simnor. A non-stop battle in the end, and well, hoping that Richard saw the battle and what happened in the same light as he did, which is it's going to happen when you're racing that close, and we'll both have got the same opinion, the same evaluation, which is it's happened, we loved it, and indeed we've all loved watching it. I'm sure you guys and girls at home have loved watching it, ladies and gentlemen. And well, now for Oscar, overcoming the deficit, he knows he's still an outsider, given his teammate Mats does have quite the advantage, and we'll talk more about that specifically shortly when we do give you the provisional updated standings going into the season finale. We do have those available tonight, but right now his big focus, make sure that it's either Mats or himself who takes that championship, and make sure it's a 1-2 for Ice Cold Racing by Maxim Racing in the gold class. If they can do that, he'll be very happy regardless of who is exactly at the top, but he knows he's only a point ahead from Kim Andre Bjørklund, and therefore the Sim Racing Norway driver is still very much in his sights to beat. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews today. We've heard from two of our drivers, and let's give you a reminder of who we've spoken to. We started off with none other than Richard Simnor for DCW Racing Blue, who absolutely loved the fighting today, and really today has been a reflection of how far he has come since the start of the season in getting to grips with the Porsche 9 2.2 GT3 Cup car. And then we heard from Oscar Berntsson, the other end of the spectrum, the driver who really has been one of the favourites since the start of the season, but really enjoying being in the thick of the fighting. And here today, going from TCR cars, the TCR Nordic Series all the way through, or the TCR National Series of Sweden, we should say, all the way through now to Porsche Cup cars, talking about how he's had to make the adjustments, particularly with the drivetrain and also the balance of the car, and then having to quickly get himself acquainted with a car to take victory at an old haunt, and he's been able to do so here to land the perfect score. A huge thank you to both of them for their time in the interview room this evening. I'm sure we'll hear from a few more of our drivers next time out to Adelaide. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's give you a quick look into what it could be looking like going into round number 10 when it comes to those driver championship standings. And here we go then, starting with the provisional gold driver standings after 9 rounds. And as we can see, Matt Strand leads. It may not have been the perfect score today, but Strand only needs to score big, and he's done exactly that. And his advantage now is 9 points over his teammate Oscar Berntsson. But what's more important, perhaps, is the battle for second. It is a point between Berntsson and Kim Andre Bjørklund, and which of the two is going to be the run-up, or can either of them find a way to usurp Strand? Because Strand is not out of the woods yet, but he will need to have a dismal day, and both of his rivals will know that, but all they can take control of is their fate, and that is trying to go for the perfect score. Richard Simnor, with his performances, has moved to 4th place. He is ahead of Josh Boot, and he has broken away. Boot now falling to 5th on 206 points, 10 ahead of Andy Jones, and then Simon Bamber there in 7th ahead of Ryan Davies, with Jack Atkinson and Paddy Falconer completing that top 10. Outside the top 10 11, it's Mikey Pollard ahead of Nick Clibbins, with Joe Newman, Daniel Shilcock and Gavin Petty completing the top 15. And the last two drives with points today is none other than Casper Tunstead on 31. And on 0 points is Andy Archer and Helder Gonzalez. Meanwhile, in the silver standings, well, ladies and gentlemen, we can provisionally crown Glenn Grondeliers as your silver champion. But there's a big emphasis here on provisionally because, of course, the Pegasus Sim Racing driver, there's post-round stewarding to do after this round. But also, if he does attend next week, make sure he needs to stay as clean as possible and score some big points, because if he does so, he'll seal the deal. However, if he picks up penalty points or things go wrong, he could still be at a risk of losing out. But who exactly would he risk losing out to? Well, it would be Ollie Pimley and Emma Rio, who right now know mathematically they don't have a chance, but you never know what can happen until we do get to Adelaide and see the results there. So instead, the battle for second now really takes the forefront. Congratulations to Glenn Grondeliers. He has left the field behind, and in his wake, who is going to be the run-up? Is it going to be the Ghost Squadron Esports machine of Pimley? Is it going to be the ERR by the organisation car of Emma Rio? Or will we see Adam Klanvik come back, and alongside Aaron Herbert, with a point only separating those two, could we see them potentially cause an upset in the fight for the top top 3 spots. In 6th is Alan McCain, a further 18 points behind. 9, there's more work to be done for Iris Esports, even though he's had a decent day today. He's now moved ahead of Chris Cole, who's fallen to 7th, and it's Matt Sparrell, Chris Daleswhite, and David Biggerdite who complete that top 10, with Rob Van Hoot in 11th place there, 10 points ahead of Alexandra Longshoot, as they've enjoyed some great battling today, and Ben Sieb, they're still ahead of Fabrizio Penzo by only 5 points, but he knows that gap is shrinking. And then we do see Mark Collicott completing that top 15 for DCW Racing Red, still on the heels of Penzo there, so we could have a good fight going on for 13th right at the end. Burton Torst is 16th, ahead of Matty Wild, and it's Nido Braun, Nicholas Gronstrom, and Mirzam Yutsupov who complete that top 20, and outside the top 20, don't forget about them, Dave Van Dam and Timo Gertner. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a recap of the standings going into our season finale. Of course, provisional subject to any stewards' inquiries. And with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting more or wanting to be on the grid at Race by Wire for a future championship campaign, because of course this is just the start of our time at Race by Wire and we've got plenty more series planned throughout 2026 and beyond. Well, for all that and more, we definitely do recommend you join the official Discord to get on the grid and get to know the community. It is the beating heart, and the invite link is available on screen there. We'd also like to take a big thank you to our series sponsor, that is none other than Energize Virtual Solutions, their website energizevirtual.com. And Energize Virtual Solutions is a software consultancy whose aim is to meet the demands of bespoke product services and development. Whether it's a completely new project or consultancy assistance on existing projects, Energize Virtual Solutions will be working alongside you every step of the way. And if you do want to know more about them and what they can do for you, do head to their website, that is energizevirtual.com today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, we wrap up proceedings from today. One round is still to come, and for our season finale, we head to the newly introduced Adelaide Street Circuit on iRacing. And well, it may have only been introduced the best part of 2 months ago, but already our drivers will be getting familiar with it, and they'll need to be very firmly familiar with it next time, because it will be where we crown our champions. In gold, it's a three-way fight, but Matt Strand is definitely at the front right now and leading the way and has earned the right to be champion. But will Oscar Berntsson or Kim Andre Bjørklund find a way to upset the favourite? Meanwhile, in the silver class, I should say, it has been a gold star performance from Glenn Gondoliers. He is your provisional champion. But of course, the fight for second goes on. And who exactly is it going to be who takes the run-up spot and completes the silver podium in the championship? We'll come to you next time to find out for round number 10 on Wednesday, the 4th of March 2026. We'll see you then. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we have been Race by Wire. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.